should show up. And then, all right. Do you see it?
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have joining me Mark Anthony Dubose Jr., birth date July 4th, 1986. And the reason I say that, yeah, if you haven't seen Mark's
videos, every one of my
videos,
videos.
Yeah, man. Why is that?
I just want to be able to say who I am, and just a lot of it is just kind of in my life experience. People always want to know a little bit more about somebody than less, and a lot of times something that I've always struggled with in my life that I'm trying to get out of. It's, I would say, an insecurity of mine in reality. Why I still state my birth date, because people always misage me. And then the younger that people think that you are, the more inexperienced people assume you to be. So if you're a 20-year-old and you have all the knowledge in the world, in reality, no one's going to want to listen to you. And you could be that same person, but 55 years old. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, he's got all the answers. He's got it all figured out. So something in me that I'm trying to still work through, of saying, I'm not 20 anymore. I have lived some, like, of my life, say pretty much 20 years on my own at this moment now. And that's led me to speak and be who I am today. And it's not just I read a book. No, what I do, especially when it comes down to dogs and dog stuff, is life experience. It's got nothing to do with books. And that's what I want to be able to explain to people right away, the first 5 seconds that you know me.
I love it. I love it. And just so you know, I was born in 1976. Oh. And so I'm 10 years older than you, youngster. But yeah. I've been in the industry for quite a while, but it's been something that I wanted to do as a child. I remember 8 years old, and now I'm 48. Right. And I tell that when I do these safety courses at elementary schools, that's what I talk to the kids about. Is like, look, there's a lot of things about your life that will change. You're going to grow older. People around you will change. Your environment will change. The trees and stuff will get bigger, but there's certain elements of you that will always stay the same.
Yeah.
Right? What initially got you interested in working with dogs, Mark?
So I had a dog, I guess, as a child. I was like 3 years old. That's all I remember of dogs. I didn't really have them. There was cats in my life. I had my cat until I was like almost 20 years old. But I got into dogs in a sense of I just had a life change. I just kind of lived in a neighborhood, and that's just my norm. I did what basically everyone's always doing. And it kind of just, I went through a divorce and went through a lot of just problems with all of that. And then just being in this house by myself. And I was just kind of looking around like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something completely different. So I literally just sold everything. And then I ended up here where I am now on like this little hobby farm, I guess I can call it. And I've been trying to graze my own food and figure all that out. And then my research led to, I want goats to help me do land management. And then my research led me to, buddy, you need a dog to move these goats around, because you're going to be running. It's not going to work. It's not going to function. So I ended up with looking and finding the border collie. So I got the border collie, and then something in him. So I got him. He was a little bit older. He was like about 12 weeks old when I got him. And something in him, when I saw him as this little puppy, just kind of like, this may be the wrong way of looking at life, but I saw him as the chance of like raising something the way that I want to, and not having any outside influence of like, so say particularly like your wife saying, no, you can't do that. And I'm just kind of looking at it like, I kind of want to do the opposite of how I was raised, to see like, because I couldn't stand, like in the time I couldn't stand how everything was at home, for basically in reality. So I was kind of like, I don't want to go that route. I want to go a different route. And I started doing things with this dog that I was just like, he's kind of like a little child in a way, that I was like seeing how he was acting and see how he was interacting. So it's kind of like this little me trying to get out of this like funk, I guess I can say, of problems that were going on in my life, just being all by myself, to having something to take care of that was also like in reality kind of taking care of me. So then I started to work with him. And then I got to the stance that I needed more experience, because I was planning on moving to somewhere much bigger, or I'm still planning on moving somewhere much larger than here. So I was like, I need a horse now. So then I went to horse training, and actually I did more horse training than I did with dog training, as far as like instructional type stuff. So I was with the horse trainer for a little over a year and a half, and that was kind of the same as a dog training school, in the sense that I was there all day. It was like 8-9 hours a day. I was there working with them, seeing them, just interacting with them. And I started to learn something about myself that even the horse trainer at that time said to me. He's like, Mark, you just know these animals. He's like, I've seen you with your dog. I see you with these dogs around here. You got on that horse and you're moving and working these horses like you've been doing this for 20, 30 years. And you just got started a couple of months ago. So he kind of gave me inspiration of, let's work with the animals. And then I asked him, if you could go all back, what would you do differently? And he said, I would work with dogs with people over horses with people because I can help out more people. Horses is really, especially today, it's an expensive hobby. Like you got to have money to be able to do such a thing. Whereas pretty much everybody, like almost like in reality, everybody has a dog or has had experience with the dog. So he wanted to put more influence out in the world of how to help people with their dogs more than their horses. So then that inspired me of saying, well, let me look more into dogs as well. So then I ended up going to the dog training school. So that's where I it just kept escalating on. I'm trying to learn more and learn more and learn more about these animals, and in reality to learn more about myself to push me to be more of where I want to go in the future.
Love it. What school did you go to, if you don't mind me asking?
I went to a Star Mark Academy dog training
Austin.
School for dog. Yeah. No, it's it's considered in Hutto, but it's like way north of Austin.
Yep,
So
I've been down there. Texas. I was down there when it was Triple Crown. Yeah. Before Star Mark purchased them, and Hutto, the hippo, you know, the story about the hippos and Hutto. And yeah, I've been down there many times, and I need to come back down there again. And just to prove your point about the amount of people that have dogs, there's in the United States alone, and this is as of October 2024, there is 89.7 million dogs in America. Yeah, man. And in 1996, there was 52 million dogs, almost 53 million dogs. So that's a steady increase. And I think that, you know, as we grow, not just in our numbers of society, but our understanding, and, you know, seek that companionship and seek to be stewards of these animals. And a lot of times, even here in Seattle, that's where I'm at, there's more dogs than there are kids.
Yeah. That's a big, weird shift. I don't want to say weird, but just a different shift that is going for sure. More people have 4 or 5 dogs compared to no children at all. And it's I get it, because even my own sense in reality, I kind of like, I don't want to use this word, but it's the way I guess I could see it, is use the dog as a replacement in a way to be able to take care of something and still be able to get that, like, I don't know how to, that emotional connection that a lot of people are missing in. So I'm guilty my own self of like over humanizing dogs that I shouldn't have been, and treating them in ways that I shouldn't have been, and seeing how destructive it really can be. But at the same time, humanizing them and seeing things be weirdly like successful in a way that I can easily communicate with them. And I'm not treating it as if it's a dumb, stupid, meaningless, emotionless type animal. And I've realized that that's not what they are. They are thinking things through. They are sad. They are happy. They are all of those realms of things. And it's kind of creepy in a way, really, having a dog so close to you and paying really close attention to it.
Yeah. I have one of my dogs always with me, and she's always within 4 feet of me all the time, man. And she's the type of dog, if I were to leave the room and she was sitting in somebody else's lap getting pet or whatever, she would fight to get to me, you know. And there's something about that I really like. You know, I'm just like, yeah, this dog appreciates me and is connected to me. And in a way, yeah, it is a surrogate fulfillment of that child, like parenting relationship. But I don't have children myself, and we were unable to. And so even though I don't necessarily call them my fur babies or anything like that, I think, you know, but I do humanize my dogs as well. But I also understand the differences between human beings, the way that we process the world versus the dog. And because we are working on interspecies communication, cross-species communication, but that communication needs to happen human to human. And so there's the analogies and the different things that are going to make people understand how it's different and how to better understand the dog in order to get that fulfilling relationship. And a lot of times too, just people have a misunderstanding of the relationship, what it's supposed to be like, what the dog appreciates, and how we can stroke the intrinsic desires within that animal. And so they're just as fulfilled as we are in the relationship.
Yeah, because that's something that I really have thought of in this concept of the biggest separation I can say from child to dog is children. I'm raising them to go do y'all got to get out of here. Like you got to go get your own work, get your own house, get your own spouse, and do what you do. But the dog, I'm raising the dog to stay with me forever. The dog is, and I'm guiding them every day from puppyhood to know we're here together. I'm not here to worry about getting your skills to be so good that you can go do it on your own. That's the biggest thing that I've seen that, unfortunately, like I'm saying that, but most people don't do that with their children. They're looking at that child like, you're going to take care of me forever. So that's where there's like a weird, when I talk to a lot of people, they hear what I'm saying, and then it finally hits a little bit later of you don't take ownership of your kids. And that's the word that we use for dogs is property and ownership. And we technically, that is what we need to do with them, because we need to take care of them for hopefully someone might live to past 20 years, but 20 years, I am giving them food every day. I am preparing their food every day. I am doing everything for them every day. And that's what I believe brings that bond with the dog to human that is strange. Like, I don't want to say it like this, but I'm just straight say it. Almost better than what your child can bring you, because you are forcing your child away, but you're creating your dog to stay. And when you're creating something to stay and you're working on it in the healthy way with that dog, the dog's going to be the most loyal, amazing thing that you're ever going to experience in life. And it's it's very strange, because I want to be able to communicate with my kids, but it's like, you gotta go. I don't want you to be attached to me that you're still, hey dad, what's for dinner? Like, no, buddy, what are you cooking? Like, what are you doing? And that's where I see a big, easy way to be able to understand my dog and realize why I'm able to get them to be so close to me and why they are so close to us, because they are dependent on us to do everything. There's just dogs that are so-called independent that can survive without us, but they actually don't. They end up just starting to become extinct. And they need us at this moment today to just keep on doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and you've worked with other animals too. So you've worked with the goats where you just started out, and then with the horses. And a couple questions here. So what do you see that's different about the relationship with the dog versus the other animals that you've worked with, Mark?
The dog is more willing to want to do for me than anything else. Everything else this is the part that, unfortunately, I say that and people aren't going to agree because of what they see in their life right now. If you're struggling with your dog, for instance, that the dogs want to do for us so much that it's a miracle type situation. Like, they want to give, they want to do, they are like, what do you want? Let's go and do it. But the goat is like, give me food and I don't care about you. The cow is like, give me food and I don't want to be nowhere near you. And even because I got a donkey, that's weird that he acts like a dog in a way, but even him, and then still same with the horses. The horses are like, I'll interact with you while we're here. But as far as the general, they're kind of like, I just want to go in the field and stay away from you. Where the dog is like, I want to lay in the room. Like, I got my Johnny here, and I don't know where Opie is, but he's just like, I want to be close. I want to be next to you. I want to be near you. All the other animals are about just running away. They want their space. They'll interact with us when they want, but for the most part, they're extremely independent. And that's the differences of breeds of dogs that I will say is kind of similar, where like my Dalmatian is like that a little bit. She's like, she wants to do her own thing. Her brain is like, I want to be there. But when it comes down to us working together, she's like, let's do this. Whereas my shepherds are like, like where I am, they are like, anything I say, like it goes, it happens. They're willing to do whatever. So the dog is the only one that I've interacted with so far that just, it wants to be there just to be there, not because of what I'm doing for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a dedicated codependence that I don't see in other animals, livestock and chickens. I have chickens and they could care less. I mean, they like it when I come and bring their food, and they're definitely giving me attention. But I go to clip their wings or something like that, and then they're like, get away from me, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just that husbandry stuff that we have to do. And same with my barn cats. Like I have 5.5 acres up here, and I have my own little mini farm too. Grow my own food, and I don't have any larger livestock than chickens and my cats. I mean, those aren't really livestock. But I want to take back to when you did have this, you started working with the horses, and you're kind of feeling lonely, looking for that companionship. And I wrote down here, what did they teach about yourself when you first started working with these animals? What are some things that you started to what were your aha moments?
The horses are the ones, the ones that really just like let me know that something's wrong with me right away. That I was too impatient, too frustrated, too angry, too hostile, too you better because I said so, just way too much. You can't fool around with these 700, 800, 900-pound animals that one kick and and they also bite, and they could bite and take chunks out of you. Yes. You don't come at them in a way. And then even regardless of if you think that you can't, because the horse is just not going to want to be anywhere near you. It's going to want to run away. So you have to know how to just, and the biggest thing I guess I can say with that is you can't fake it. You have to be it. If you're mad and angry and try to come with that horse and oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, it's not going to work. The horse sees you walking towards it like a mile out. It's like, hey, buddy, but dogs are way more forgiving with that. Dogs, you can be a little hostile and the dog is like, I'm still fine. But the horse, they're not forgiving. They want nothing to do with you. So it forced me to say, I got some things I need to work on. Why am I so impatient? Why do I want it right now? Why am I just in this rush? Always, that's something that I used to always have issues with. Like, I'm behind. I just like, I gotta go. As opposed to just like, why are you not fine? What are you doing right now? And the horses really taught me that more than any dog on the planet is able to tell me that. Because even my donkey, he teaches me that every day. Because he's the one, donkeys are different. Donkeys are like dogs in a way that they are more, I don't want to use this word because it's always used inappropriate, but they're more aggressive. They're more in the sense of they will fight. Horse will, for the most part, run away. But a donkey will fight. It will run at you. It will try to kick you. It will try to bite you. And if you try to come at him any sort of hostile way, he's going to match that energy right back to you. Whereas most dogs, you can come at them hostile and they will just submit and they will fold. So those two animals really taught me, like, dude, chill out. Like, you may want your way, but that's not the way to get your way, is coming in and just demanding your way. You got to come a different route.
Dude, there's these videos on YouTube. I'm not going to show them because they could be pretty brutal, but watch donkey kills coyote.
Yeah, they're savage.
They don't mess around, dude. Like when people, they just think that I don't know what they think, but I found that very surprising. Yeah, Eeyore, right?
Yeah, that's what people, every time I talk about my donkey, they think it's just some slow, dumb, silly animal. Like, no, these are top tier predators. They are really good at doing their job. They'll get a mouse out if there's a mouse around. They're intense animals, and they're in a sense of land protection, they're better than the dogs because they're standing alert pretty much like 24/7, and they're always listening for the slightest of the noises, and they're active and they're able to move, and they don't have in my opinion, the same feeling aspect as the dogs do. They get it done, where some dogs will hesitate in a way of like, I'm nervous, where the donkey isn't nervous of the coyote. It's like, I'm going to go get it. I don't care about this coyote. Where a dog will kind of be like, what is it doing? What is it doing? And it's a big difference I see in the animals. I don't care how tough the livestock guardian dog is. They're nervous when they see these animals. They don't really want to go to battle. They want to bark it, please just leave. The donkey is like, buddy, actually come here so that I can make sure you're never coming back again. They're tough animals, and you better because I said so to these animals. You're gonna get really scared at the end of the day. And that's what I learned that really fast, especially with the horse, because there's a lot of them. You're standing there, you're stroking its back, it's up here, and you can see the size of this leg and these muscles. It's it's like, hey buddy, you could just step on my foot and ruin the rest of my life. Like, they're really intense.
Yeah, I weigh 200 pounds. And that's some of those horses 800 pounds, man. That's 4 literally 4 of me.
Yeah.
And and that's where I believe people need to branch out. And even though they have a little bit of different mind, with being an herbivore and, than a dog, which is that predator, they have a different way of processing the world. But because of the sheer size, you can't just push these horses around. And so I recommend trainers work with horses, take a horse class. I have some trainers that are like Heather Lowell, a good friend of mine, and we've done a class up here together, a brilliant lady, and she works with horses in conjunction with the dog training. And I think that there's something of value there, essentially uh, not just being aware of the large animal that you can't push around, but also being aware of yourself. And what I always preach is like, live in the moment, man. Like, Mark, you were saying that you were always hurry to get this stuff done, and people kind of have a default preset of that's just their personality. And it might be something that was experiences in your life before that causes this. But it's essentially, when I tell people you're in a big hurry, you're kind of projecting into the future. Like, you got to get this stuff done. I got to get right, instead of living in the moment right now and just viewing things as it is. And it's almost like a fear-based type of thing. Like, I need to get it. There's something in you that's provoking this anxiety to hurry. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's in my mind, it's we're running away from something, and you're trying to get to that next, to escape where you think you may go if you don't have anything going on. Because stuff that I've just been really researching a lot and watching, just even this pastor guy, that's really changed my mind, is the concept of doing nothing at all. No movies, no music, no nothing. Like, literally sit on a chair, sit outside, and just hang out. And how hard, like, some people, that's impossible to do for like 15 seconds right now. Because with these phones and everything, we're just in it. And your thoughts get to going. And once your thoughts get to going, then you're like, I got to do something. And that's basically my whole life. I got to do something to run away from. There's something over here that I need to like focus on and stop and hang out with. And unfortunately, that's what I see in the dogs, that they're like on the go. They're on the go. They're on the go. They're on the go. As opposed to like, no, let's just lay down. Let's just chill. Let's just be content with where we are. And it's the more that we're bringing these dogs closer to us and breeding them with us, the more, not breeding them with our DNA, but just breeding them in our homes, where they used to be in the back barn, in the backyard. And now dogs 1 day old are literally in our house, somewhere close to us. And they're starting to act way more like us. And they're starting to just, it's weird that I go to some people's houses and I see the dog and I'm like, that literally is like a child right now. The way that it's acting, it's not acting like a dog anymore. It's kind of creepy in a way, and how they're adopting everything about us, and they're like losing their dogness. And that's why, for me, the horse stuff is fascinating, because what dog represents is not what dog represents anymore, in my opinion. They're starting to become soft and like prey animals. They're no longer these savage beasts. And a savage beast is easier, I'm going to say, to work with. But a prey animal is much harder. It takes much more time. You don't get it done in a week. We don't train these horses to be wild and feral to a nice horse we can ride in a month, in 2 months. It takes time and time and time. Even for like the best of the best of the best trainers, they can get it close to being something good. But as far as being able to educate somebody else, this is the thing that all training kind of messes up with, from working out and all that stuff. All trainers, you're really good at something, you can get it done in a day or two. But to be able to convey that information to the next person and get them to do it in a day or two is almost impossible. Each of us has our gifts to do. And that person with that gift is trying to say, oh, you could do it in 10 minutes as well. But no, it's more likely going to take you 10 months as opposed to that 10 minutes to actually fully get it done. And that's what I see the dogs are today. A beast, like a lot of these, what a dog represents, in 2 days, you can get a full obedience routine out of those dogs really easy. I see it out of a lot of the work shepherds, work Malinois, all these dogs. Like, it's so simple. You can say no to the dog, and the dog's like, okay, let's keep going. But a lot of dogs that I meet, you say no to, they cower. they run away, they get scared, they start to get nervous. That's showing like a prey status in reality. They're no longer these confident animals. So that's where the horse stuff really, in my mind, kind of works good with the dogs the most today, of seeing that fearful side of them, knowing that I can't just want it when I want it. It's got to be when the dog is ready, and it slows me down a lot.
Yeah, I tell people the role of the dog has changed dramatically in the last 100 years, right?
Yeah.
And so have we. You know, the Industrial Revolution, the technological revolution, right, has enabled us so many conveniences in life that's made us softer too. Like we're the same, but it's good to see the wild nature that is. I mean, there's still a spark of that within, you know, especially some dogs. And when I travel, I'm headed back to Costa Rica here next month, and I love to travel, and I want to go to India, but I don't, because it's like, just, I watch these videos, dude, and I'm just like, man, I just don't like a big crowd of people, but I want to go watch the dogs. I want to go watch, without so much of the human influence, how these dogs behave. And I do that in Costa Rica as well. And I see, they're still interacting with people, but it's a different conversation with that animal. And of course they do have the dogs that are soft and that are you know, that belong to some people, but there are some dogs that are just left to wander. Just like when I was a kid, we had neighborhood dogs. Some of them would wander. A lot of them would get in my trash that I had to go pick up or whatever. But that's important to understand, man, is one, the role of the dog, and how, as we bring them in to experiences, the conveniences and the comforts that we have invented, and they themselves become part of that experience and comfort for us, that the dynamic changes, and we develop habits, right? And these habits, sometimes as a dog professional that helps other people, I have to take a 30,000 foot view of their habit and their lifestyle that has led to this relationship getting off into the ditch, or you know, just the perception of this particular animal. And that's why it's so important to watch and to talk to many trainers with different perspectives. And that's what that's what I really like about you, Mark, is I've never met you. I've just watched some of your videos, and I love how just your honesty and how authentic you are. And you guys, if you haven't watched any of Mark's videos, I put up a link in the comments down below just now to his YouTube channel. Give him a subscribe. And if you're not subscribed to me, subscribe to me on YouTube as well. I hate self-promotion. And while I'm self-promoting, I have a Patreon page, and it's been dwindling down a little bit. So if you guys like what I do, consider supporting me over on Patreon. And I might even ask Mark to join me on a private Patreon chat one of these days over there as well. So thank you so much. Britt says, hold on, we got some comments here. I don't know if you can see them, but Britt has learned so much from Mark. She loves your videos. And so do I, dude. I love how you talk about, do you just kind of talk about what's on your mind, or how does the content subject of your content flow to you?
I literally just wake up with the idea, and then I try not to think about it too much, because then I start to deviate from, I don't know how to say it. The more that we think about what we want to say, this is just my opinion here, I don't know how everyone else looks at it, but the more I think about the topic that I want to talk about, the more that I have a chance to start lying about that topic. Because now I think something, and then I'm like, no, let's not say that. I want to say it like this instead. So I try not to put any input in, and I just have an idea of, I want to talk about like, for instance, right now, this positive reinforcement stuff. What is it? And is it a good thing, or is it a bad thing? And I just hit the record button. I just get going, and I just talk based on old stuff, old books, old everything, old experience. And I just am able to just put it together and speak about it. So I don't try to think up anything or plan a process. Most people say that I probably should, but that just doesn't work for me, because I don't want to come out and say something that's deceptive in any way. I'm just speaking just straight what I'm saying is what I'm saying. I say some stuff that I'm like, man, I shouldn't have said that. But because I even say that in my mind sometimes, like, I shouldn't have just said that right now. But we're going. We're just pushing through with it. It is what it is. I just want it to be just natural and real. I don't know you. You don't know me. And I'm just talking to you like, this is where we are. I don't want no hidden agenda of, I know you're like this, so I'm going to talk to you like this. I don't want to do that. And it's hard a lot, I know, for a lot of people at the end of the day, because if a lot of times, how do I say, especially when I'm going to somebody's house and I'm just speaking straight up, I'm not trying to hide and bubble it up. It's like, it hits you heavy at first where you're like, man, that was rough. But I've never had someone say, Mark, get out of my house. I never want to see you again. They never say, oh, I don't want another appointment with you. I never want to do this ever again. They're always get silent and they're listening. And then they think that over. And then they come back the next day and say, okay, I got to do something now. I gotta figure this out. Because a lot of times, because I know it sells on YouTube, everything else is a problem. Everything else is to blame. That stuff sells. I don't know why people like hearing that, but we like to hear what we like to hear to make us think that we're fine and everything else is a problem. And I come to everyone and saying there may be a slight issue with the dog, but we have to take accountability for everything that's going on. And then when we do, we see that everything around us starts to become better. It's such a, to me, it's an easy message because it lets me know that I'm in control of where I can go here. But as far as most people, I just noticed that it's like, that's like some hard stuff to hear. Like, you got to change this. It's like, no, I don't want to change nothing. Why can't I just buy my way to this and buy my way to fix something? It doesn't work that way with the things that we really in our core desire. A house, go buy it. But what is going to fill that void of lack and insecurity in us, you can't buy it. You got to work your way through it.
Yeah, there's strength in that struggle, dude. You know, and sometimes the truth can be brutal. And that's what people are paying us for, is basically like, you need help. Here's what I see. And you're not going to like this, but here's the changes that I recommend in order for this to be a fulfilling relationship. And, you know, that's the main crux is why it's important. And it's also why it's important to have a network of people that you can, you know, chat with and listen and have and put out this content so other people can watch. And like I said, like the vast majority of people watch these live streams after the fact. But if you guys are watching right now, hit the share button so more people can join us. But and if you guys have any questions, any comments, let me know, and we'll address those. But it's important to understand that's one of the reasons why I do these unedited, why I do these live streams. It's not a podcast that I go take and chop up and leave this out, leave that out. Ooh, I didn't sound good there, or I said too many ums, or whatever it is. Like, I want to be authentic, and I want people to know that I am the same person I am talking with you right now, Mark, as if we were privately having lunch or at a dog event or something like that. And I think people appreciate that authenticity. And just like you were saying about the pastor, about sitting, and so I assume you're Christian.
I guess I can say that's what society would. Man, this dude dirty. What society would say to put on it, but I guess so. That's the term that I use. But yeah, technically, I guess I can say I'm a believer of Jesus Christ is what I would say.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm Catholic, and so it's and we have this gentleman. When you said that, it just made me think of there's a guy named John of the Cross, and he's a saint in the Catholic Church, and he talks about inner stillness, and one of his favorite quotes is, "Inner stillness, where meditation lies, the secret spirit secretly anoints our soul and heals our deepest wounds. And silence is God's first language," right? And so to sit, to contemplate, and to not get distracted by all of these, you know, devices that we have. And I get it, why people like to put the responsibility elsewhere, or they're used to consuming at a push of a button, instant gratification. And I think it's amazing too. Like the stuff I watch, the YouTube videos I do video games. I'd have a PS5 over here. I don't know if you can see, but And so I like that stuff, like, and I'm guilty of it too. But there's times where, you know, I need to sit down and read a book. There's times that I need to sit and contemplate, and to, you know, I went to schools of meditation when I was younger, and then I recently heard about this gentleman named Joe Dispenza. Are you familiar with that guy at all,
Yeah,
Mark?
I've heard of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a meditative guy, and he has all these guided meditations on YouTube. And I remember when I was young, dude, and to just sit there and be still, I would rather do anything else, bro. Like,
Yeah.
it was torture to me. And I was
Yeah.
like, why is this torture? It's just like when you took some time to self-reflect and be like, why am I in this hurry? Why am I frantic? Why am I rushing this? I had that time to reflect of like, why just sitting here is such a drag to me. Like, what is going on? This is very simple. And I mean, the time, and I was like 20-minute windows, but it was like, it
Yeah.
felt like 5 hours, dude. Now,
Hours.
with the music, Joe Dispenza has a little bit different, where he actually has this music, and it definitely helps. I think Nietzsche says that life without music is worthless, I think, is what his quote. I can't think of it, but basically that by itself, to sit and to have like some music that you can listen to. But even if you don't have that music, being able to do this in silence and to just be, right?
Yeah.
And not be the dog trainer, not be anything, but just this experience right now. And just like I was talking about, how that rushed feeling is like projecting ourselves into the future. Then also like the depression and guilt is kind of like projecting ourselves to the past of, I wish I would have done differently. But to be truly in the moment, I think takes practice, but there's something very valuable about teaching yourself how to do that.
Because that's how, in my opinion, the dogs live. They're living now. They're not worried about what I ate. They're not worried about what they're about to eat. They're worried about where we are. And the more that we can get ourselves to like get in that mindset with them, the more that we can actually see what's going on with them. Because a lot of anxious dogs that I see are only just feeding that from our anxiety. Because I could take dogs, I've done this many and many of times, that dogs are a hot mess with their owner. I take it, keep it for 12 hours later. It's like the dog is not perfectly fine, but just in a way that I can just leave it alone and we're good to go. It's something about being able to, because in my mind, me personally, I believe that we as well should be living that way, in the sense of just calmness and stillness, and not always actively like going, or the level of creating something, building something, making something. So me, I also like my music. This is also my music room and my computer room, that I like to just put stuff together, and it does something to just settle you. So when I'm here putting my little beats and playing with my little piano or keyboard, I guess I call it, playing back here, I see the dogs are completely different. They're just like extremely mellow. They're like, let's just hang out. Because even now, I'm mellow. The dogs are just laying, napping. I'm just sitting here. We're just talking. We're right here, right now. I'm not worried about, I got to go do this, or I got to that, or something bad is happening. No, I'm right now. I can't make music based on what I was feeling 8 months ago. I got to do it based on what's going on in the moment. And I noticed the more things that I do like that, the dogs want to just, that's what they want to be around, is that the person that is just detached from all the chaos of the world and just able to just be here, be present. And that's like, I don't know how to say it, but other than the way I look at it today, is it's like there's an attack on us as a humanity to not experience that anymore. They want us, go buy this, go get this, go do this, go work harder for this, as opposed to just work harder to find an inner peace inside of you.
Yeah, they call it an attention economy, right? Where everything wants your attention. And then the endless scroll, right? And I'm guilty of getting on that endless scroll, dude. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've been on this for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But I also think that this, like living in the moment and capturing your thoughts at that moment without allowing your mind to judge what you're going to say. And I think, watching your videos, and also when you're doing your videos, you're out there with your dogs, and you can see your dogs, just being dogs, just sniffing around as you start to get into the subject matter that you're speaking about. And I also, as they experience this, like I've done hundreds of these live streams, and my girl's here every time, right? And so she's just sitting here, She just curled up in a ball. I just turn and look at her, and do you know what she does? Thump, thump, thump. Let me grab her. I call her my piggy. Just my pig.
That's kind of like that Brindle.
Yeah, she's got the gray eyebrows now. She's getting to be old girl. She's almost 9. And now she's like, okay, I'll go back to sleep. But and not only that, but then we can start to observe our dogs and truly observe them. And just like you and I both admit that we are guilty of humanizing our dogs, like that's what I try to tell my clients is like, look, I know that it is much easier to understand something if we overlay our own perception on it, because this is how we see the world. And so if we overlay our own perception on this animal, is like, oh, they see it like we see it. I get that. That's easy to do and that's easy to understand. But what my goal is to instead become the dog and view the world by proxy through that dog's eyes. And the first step of that is to live in the moment, to just be with your dog and to observe the world around you. And you'll find out like the awareness that dog has and the things that they want to show you too. The dog's always watching us, but a lot of times it's not that mutual feedback loop.
Yeah. Cause that's the thing. It's like, I was just, that's friend's house the other day, just watching her looking at her dogs. And I'm just like, it's interesting today that I don't believe that most all of people don't know who their dog actually truly is. They've never actually spent the time to learn and understand and know them. It's like we put these expectations that, oh, it's a dog. It better because I said so, basically. And not really knowing, like, because this is just something that I can ask anyone. What does your dog like to do? And people will always, for the most part, state something that they like to do and the dog is out doing it. And I'm like, no, what does your dog like to do? The thing that your dog cares for. So I can say, like, for instance, so something that would say to me is, my dog likes pets. And it's like, no, you do. What does your dog actually like? What does your dog want? And I don't think most people know how to answer that. They've never spent the time of even 10 minutes in the day of just sitting and looking at the dog and just saying, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you care to do? Where do you want to be? Because all your issues, I guess, especially with going for walks, will disappear really fast if you just figure out what the dog wants to do. Because you listen to them, they listen to you, and then we're good to go. Most dogs are pulling to smell something. To go interact, to just smell with it. You just say, oh, you want to smell it? Oh, go smell it, buddy. And then you realize the dog looks at you and says, oh, you see me. Oh, okay, now I'll want to like listen more to you because now you're listening to me. But in most cases, we're not caring at all what the dog is wanting and desiring. It's about what we want and what we desire. And we put that on the dog saying, oh, the dog likes this because I like this as well. And it doesn't always, sometimes it'll work that way. Say, a lot of cases it works that way, but most it doesn't. The dog is its own individual. And once we find what they like, they will be willing to do, in my experience, when I start give the dog what they want to do, in turn, they start to do like almost everything that I'm asking for and I want them to now do. They don't push back. They don't question it. They don't. This is the part where the big difference that I'll say is human to dog, or child to dog, is most kids, which they should, give pushback. Why are you making me do that? But the dogs come in a sense of, I'll do it. Like, I'm here. Let's go make that happen. Like, no problem here. That's the part that we're constantly always raising them, and we're not worried about them doing on their own. So that's just what I see. But most people don't. I don't think that anyone understands what your dog actually likes, who your dog actually is. What do they care to do? What do they want to get into? Do they like biting, chewing, pulling, sniffing? What do they do? And
chasing,
when you figure that
chased.
out, yeah, exactly. And when you find and see that, you let them do that, and the dog will do anything that you're looking for in that moment. You want them to walk with you, they'll walk with you. You want them to lay down for hours, they'll lay down for hours. They just start to want to give back. It's in my mind, we start it and then they finish it. If we never start it, they're never going to start their role of wanting to really get connected to us. They're going to constantly keep pushing every little button, every little boundary. And that's what I see most dogs in households are pushing people around. And it's not, because that's the thing that some people say is you need to be the leader and the dominator and the all those words. And I'm like, yes, we have to in a sense, but not in the way that we're not going to allow the dog to express the dog that the dog is. If it wants to chase and you let it chase, the dog is going to be the dog that's going to want to follow your lead all the time. But if you never let it, it's always going to push at you and say, I want to do this. Why don't you let me do this? Why don't you let me do this? And then they just, they're I guess what they are, savage beasts. They turn into that. They just get really, really pushy.
Yeah, their unfulfilled desires often transmute into habits that aren't really cohesive or conducive to human lifestyle, Mm-hmm. But they're just being a dog. And I got to remind people, like, this dog isn't being bad necessarily. They're just being a dog. This is what this behavior of being unfulfilled, of stroking that intrinsic desire has led to, right? And so let's not just figure out what the dog wants, but why they want that, right? So you're saying pulling on the leash to sniff something because they freaking got a killer nose and they see the world differently. So now that's part about like looking through the dog's eyes. And, to be a good leader, that's the aspect too. Like a good leader isn't a dictator, man. A good leader takes the time to understand who they're leading and tries to not just understand them, but to fulfill their wants and desires too, because just as an individual, I'm an individual, you're an individual, Yaya back here is an individual. How many dogs do you have, Mark?
I got 5 right now.
Yeah, I got 7, so you got a little catching up to do. No. I'll never have this many dogs ever again, man. But
I heard the video with Will, and you said you've had 11 at one time. That's where I want to kind of get to, like 11 to 13 range. I think I'll end up being at some point. Just I'm because I want to start bringing in dogs and kind of like working with them and then rehoming dogs. I don't have that's what I'm doing now, is learning the concept of how to find the people that are looking for those dogs. They want a dog that's like 2 or 3 years old. They don't want a puppy, but they want the dog to already be in a like pretty good place and not having to worry about the madness. Like, so I'll say the way of saying it, a well-socialized dog, a dog I could take anywhere, is cool anywhere, is great with everyone, and just get dogs and work them and then just move them along. So I'm trying to get into that. So I know I want to have at least like in the teens of dogs at some point. I'll end up having, I even have more than that at some point.
Okay. It's just a lot of work, but you're using it. And I use these 7 dogs. For instance, I have a poodle here named Chloe, and she was super dog reactive. And so guess what I do? Put her with my dogs, and at the first couple of days, I'm kind of hovering, just be like, hey, knock that shit off. Hey, stop that. Chill out. You're safe, because I know she's safe. Like there's no dogs. But now, dude, she's out there snoozing with them. They're all cuddled up in a big cuddle puddle. She's actually playing with these dogs. And then I take the dog back home, and the mom is just like, the walks are perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's my opinion, the future of dog training is allowing our dogs to help with the other dogs, because they can speak it much faster. But some people are trying to do that in the sense of trying to use your dog to dominate the other dog, to force it into submission so that it becomes, and it's a concept that I know of. A bully starts to bully later on. They don't turn to be like a
good leader.
Yeah, they just want to bully because they've been bullied to do what they're doing. But when you have dogs that aren't being bullied, and they're just feel comfortable, they feel appreciated, they feel heard, that dog is going to be an amazing dog to say to another dog, hey, there's nothing to worry about. You're scared of people? Why are you scared of people? This guy is cool. Because it's like instant transformations I've seen from many dogs that I brought in here by them seeing how my border collie interacts with me. He's on 10 with me. He sees me. He's like, oh, yeah, he's the best. He's the greatest. And that dog sees that. He's like, oh, that guy must be awesome. And then, bam, we're good to go. Could touch the dog, everything. It happens instant. The dog's nervous. Is like, I don't know what's happening. People are scared. People are weird. And they see that. And they're like, I want that. The scared stuff, that's too much for me. I want to get into that. And they come around.
Yeah, through observation. And what I was saying, too, is just like we're individuals, your 5 dogs, my 7 dogs, they're all individuals, and your wants and desires as an individual are just as important to you as each one of those individual dogs.
Yeah.
Right. And so even though we know one dog doesn't necessarily know that we know every dog, we still have to observe and take those notes of what the wants and desires are of this particular animal. And Joan says, I have a German Shepherd. He was very damaged. His past experiences are a mystery to me. And sometimes that's actually a good thing, because you can go forward here on out and not make excuses or tolerate behavior that you feel bad because of knowledge of the past experiences.
Yeah, because that's where me and like rescue and shelter stuff I clash a lot with, because everybody wants to put this boohoo story on the dog, as opposed to seeing the dog that you see in your face and just saying, "Hi, buddy, how you doing?" Don't worry about what he's done, where he's been. If somebody, because it's not normal that someone is like, say, physically just beating the dog all day. Dogs look nervous. They're just scared. You put in the shelter, they're scared. They're going to some extreme hostile place. The less of you know of a past, and the less that you try to put on the dog of a past, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to mess the dog. I don't want to use that word, but you're going to mess the dog up more by trying to hold it in a sense of, it's okay, baby, it's okay. You'll get better one day. I know they were mean to you. That's going to force the dog to want to stay in that, as opposed to getting more independent and more just a sound, stable dog. So the backstories, in my opinion, because I've seen stuff that people, when they realize it, they're like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe that." But like, especially in the shelters, they always have those like red cards and green cards. Don't go in the kennel with a red card, because that dog is like nipped or did something or growls or shows teeth. And sometimes they mess those cards up, and then they put a green one on what's supposed to be a red, and they go in there and they're just seeing, "Oh, this is a happy, fun dog." They're petting the dog, and the dog has no weirdness to it. It's because we're walking in there and just, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" And the dog sees that and it's like, "I like you. You're cool." Whereas when you put that red card, people are already like, "I don't know, I'm nervous." So then the dog's reading you like you're nervous. That dog's nervous. Now we have conflict going on here. That's something that some places don't use, which I like to see that, but other places they're heavy on that, and it ends up making a dog it's not going to get adopted. It's not going to get rehomed, because you're already looking at it like, "I'm scared of you." Because I messed that up with the shepherd that I have. I was scared of it. I was terrified of it. I don't know why I adopted a dog that I was terrified of. I was terrified of this dog. Anytime you did anything, he's not about just bluff charges. He was serious about business. You pull on that collar and he's going to come back and he's going to bite you. You tell him no, he's going to come back and he's going to bite you. You try to put him in the kennel, he's going to come back and he's going to bite you. And I'm sitting here dealing with this dog, and I'm scared because I know that that's who he was. And then I had to just quit. "Buddy, let's go for a run." Everything started to change. I stopped worrying about what are you going to do, and I started really paying attention to, what am I doing that's causing you to have that response? It's just like an automatic response that's going on. So I must be coming at you hostile for you to come at me hostile. That dog is the one that taught me more about like being way more patient with dogs, for sure, especially if they're like showing teeth and willing to bite, because you can't just, some of them you can put a leash on, sit down. I said sit. Some of them you can, but some of them you're going to be fighting, and you better have a bite suit on every time you're interacting for a while, because he's going to want to bite you. And that brings a level of complexity. And that's changed me a lot. And just slow down, dude. Slow down. Stop wanting it right now.
Yeah. And it's also, she says, with your coaching philosophy is renewed and loved by many. It brings us back to when you were working with the horses. And sometimes we get these little reminders. And that's why I'm like, I tell dog trainers or any of my mentees or anybody I'm working with is like, never stop learning. There is no finish line here, dude, because you're going to get a dog. If you think you know it all, you're dead in the water, and they're going to show you. and sometimes we get the dogs we need and not the dogs we want, because there's a pearl of wisdom that they're going to teach us. And building that rapport with that animal is rapport is power. And speaking about not knowing the dog's past, sometimes that story could be made up, dude. Like, I've seen dogs that are like, "So you saw that this dog was a bait dog in a fight? Like, you saw, like, let me do some research. Like, what date was this? Was it was broken up at a fight club. He was a fight dog. When were these people arrested? Where was this dog?" And they find out that all this shit is made up, or they like tell me that he must have been beaten by a man because he hates men, or he must have definitely been beaten because the way that he shirks down, or And I'm like, dude, that's a dog being a dog. That's just a dog's natural response. I doubt this dog was ever beaten, because I've worked with dogs that exhibit the same behavior, that those people have never beat this animal. They've had it since it's a puppy. And it's just some dogs just exhibit this stuff. Just like, I mean, we have some people that are anxious, that are, toiling around, that might look really stressed. And it just depends on what's going on in that moment with that dog. And that reflects back to the importance of learning how to live in that moment. And whether that moment is getting into the crate, whether that moment is popping that leash and getting the surprise of the dog climbing the line or something like that. You're like, okay, cool, I got to take a different approach here. And I remember, dude, as I was learning to be a dog trainer, I would always get bit by boxers, right? And so it was like I had this weird thing with boxers. I still do, honestly. Like, it's weird. Like, I just do, because I've been bit like so many times by them. And I remember this one client, I was just like, okay, your dog's cool, everything's good, you guys do what I said, I'll be back next week. I turn around and walk out the door, and the dog nailed my ass. Like, bit me so hard on the, like, my butt cheek was blue, dude. And I remember driving to the next appointment that I had, and I could barely sit. I was just like, dude, I'm in so much pain, because I turned my back on this dog. I got a little bit too confident in the dog. I mean, it literally bit me in the butt, dude. And this is the industry that we work in, that is going to bite you in the butt when you start to think that you know it all.
You got, yeah, that's the biggest thing with me. I just see a lot of that on YouTube. This is it. I got it. This is all the answers. The one thing that I like hearing, I'll always keep watching, is when someone says, I don't know. Because I don't know means we're still trying to figure it out. But there's so many out here that are like, nope, I know. What if in this situation, what would you do? And they just start spitting out a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, have you even been around that? Or are you just speaking that sounds good and it may work in theory, but does it actually work? And when someone says, I don't know, that means that we're still more to work with. Because something I can say is, like, people always ask, because all the trails I go to, we got snakes. I just ran past, man, it was a good sized snake the other day. Good sized rattlesnake. How do you get your dogs to not mess with them and engage with them? Straight up, I don't know. We just keep running past them. We don't stop. We don't investigate. It'll start rattling at me, and I just keep moving. I keep moving. And when I see them on the property here, I find them. They get to rattling. My dogs are already suspicious. And, I just got to, unfortunately, sorry to anyone that loves snakes and stuff, but they can't be here because they've killed 2 of my goats. And one of my dogs actually got bit by a rattlesnake once. I got to get the shovel and I make a scene about, we're getting this snake out of here. And the dogs see that and they're like, well, maybe we should just leave that alone. That's what's worked for me. What's going to work for you? I don't know. There's nothing that's perfect. There's no 100%. This is how it works. And that's what I always get pushback on, the people that are just, this is it. If you do this, all your issues are going to go away. And I'm like, there's an unlimitedness out here. There can't just be just that. That's how we get it. That's where I always get challenged. That's why I'll watch a few videos of yours as well. You talk to every single trainer out there, every single range from the person that's like, all I do is I slap collars on the dog, and this is what I do the second I see it. Like, you better already have bought it. When I show up, I'm hooking my leash on. That's what we do. To the people that are like, all I do is I'll throw treats at them, and that's what's needed. And unfortunately today, people are wanting to fight and battle about, I'm right, you're wrong, you can't this, you can't that, as opposed to like, what's working. And what's working is all that really needs to really kind of matter at the end of the day. And what's working for the sense of everyone being included. Because for me, it's something that, I started off in the sense of, because I listened to that, because Will is the one that was the lead instructor at the school when I went there. And so I spent a lot of time with him and seen him. And even after I asked him questions and stuff, and because I actually did an internship at the school as well. So I was there for twice the school length. But something that he stated was, I was in it in the beginning for the dog, getting the dog, like, worried about the dog, making sure that I'm doing what I need for the dog. And then he switched to, I got to work for the humans. I instantly went to people's doors worried about the human. I didn't care about the dog. Like, I cared about, unfortunately, like, I got into this straight up front to make money. And I realized how to be able to make it on doing certain things to just get people to see results instantly, where they're struggling. Like, I don't know what to do. I've had so many trainers. I don't know where to go. So I came in, I said, hey, buddy, I can solve your problems. Give me that leash. And I got your dog looking good. But I ran into a problem. that most of these people, they were already done with the dog. They didn't want it anymore. So I would come in and I would do something to the dog that personally me, I don't really feel all that great about, like literally just best words I can use is manhandling that dog to get it to look good right now. And it did. And they were able to have the dog that they were looking for days and weeks. But at some point they kind of just would, do you want a dog? Like trying to rehome the dog on me even. I'm just like, no, I'm good. I don't want another dog. But they were already were done with the dog. And today I'm kind of like, I don't work for people like that anymore. And I can kind of weed that out right away. Do you really want it? Do you want it? Because if you want it, you can have the dog you're looking for. But most people, when they're in that, I've already had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 trainers come in, they don't want the dog anymore. They're just like kind of looking for that next trainer to say, put this dog down because it's a mess. And that's they get like, it's how do I say that? They get the gratification that it wasn't only just them that thought that they should do that the professional came in and said, yeah, put this dog down. This one is a mess. And I would never say that to anybody. I've never met a dog that I'm like, we have to personally. I just haven't seen it. I've seen ones for the owner, what they were dealing with, that they were like, I don't know where to go, where some people have dogs that they just shouldn't have. They saw it and they got it not knowing what it was and they got it. And I'm like, for me, this is a fun dog, like an exciting dog. But for you, you're going to be scared of this dog, like, because it's an intense dog. It's not just this cute little sleeping all day type dog. It's a active 16-hour day type moving type dog. I like those dogs. But for them in their mind, they're like, I can't do this. And their number one go-to is I got to get rid of it. So for me, I don't like the folks that are, I got to do it or else. I got 2 weeks or else. Because in most cases, they're done. They're just like, I really don't want this animal anymore. And I want 5 people to say to me no. Because every time I go to someone's house, 2 people have already said to them, put the dog down. And they're just looking for like that more of, please someone else say the same thing so I don't feel guilty about it. And then they can move on with life.
Yeah. Yeah. They want it to be confirmed.
Yeah.
And, and repeated so they know they think that they know they're making the right decision. And I've worked with thousands of dogs and I've had, I can count on one hand, like 3 or 4 dogs that I've had to behaviorally euthanize. And it was something that it was, I really think that the wires were crossed with these animals or something. And I will never, ever forget those dogs. And one of them, I'm like, did I really do everything right? And it's something that will haunt me. Yeah. And when I get to heaven, I'd like to apologize. Dude, I want to apologize to so many dogs. You know, when I get to heaven, I'm the same way. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't. And that's the other thing too, is like, I don't know is the perfect or important to say. Like I say, great question. I don't know. Let me do some research. Let me get back to you. Or I ask more clarifying questions on like where we're going to go with this. But the other thing that is very powerful for somebody to say is I was wrong. Right. And oh, look, I got a little thumbs up, but, I was wrong. And that takes a lowering of the ego. And that's another thing about why I do these live streams with people. I just get this intuitive nudge, just like I did commented on one of your videos, like, dude, you want to do a live stream with me? And because as somebody that is I serve people, I serve these dogs, I've traded my life to work with them. And in order to do this successfully, we need to have an eclectic knowledge base. And we need to learn. I feel like we all have something to learn from each other and something to teach each other. It's just like the I was wrong statement. It takes us lowering down our egos in order to learn and to be able to say those 3 words that are very powerful words. And then we got some people joining us, Tim. We got most people joining us on YouTube. I love it, man. The crowd is transferring over to YouTube. Jacqueline says, it's sad that if a dog trainer says, I don't know, professionals start chiming in, making it up and becoming a trainer. So I feel like they shouldn't be professionally training. Good point. Because they don't have all the answers. Yeah. I mean, all the answers, just like Mark is saying, like with the rattlesnake, there's a few different ways to handle this, man. And some I'm sure that I don't know them all. I mean, I've done some pretty strong aversive training with snake breaking, with dogs that are search and rescue dogs that they can't show any interest in this this snake. And so, but there's also, just chopping that snake's head off and making sure that they know, like, this is not welcome here. But it's so, Julian or Joanne says, I would like to host an evening with Mark in my community. Can we arrange something? If so, how can we make this happen? Where are you located, Joanne? I want to ask for Mark, or maybe Mark, what do you think about that, being hosted for an evening with Joanne?
This is what I'm trying to be able to get further into, is being able to just communicate what I've learned along the way of how I view and see these dogs, and not only just that, but us as humans as well. A lot of these books that I've read that are, say, so-called dog training books are actually like books to help us as humans. And the more that we are in a better place, easy it is to work with these dogs. Anger and frustration is something that, like, dogs just get repelled to. They're like, I don't want to be around that. So if you could start to work on that your own self, pretty much, I don't want to say every dog, but almost in reality, animals all want to be around you, because they're just, they greatly appreciate that. Oh, you messed up? Let's try again. It's okay. Let's do it again. There's nothing bad or nothing weird about it. Let's just try again. And then they try again and they get it. And you're like, hey, that was a good job. And they thrive off of that. But that's the concept there, that animals, for most part, but especially dogs, really like, where that's the part that can kind of mess a child up in a way, because you're kind of that's not how the world is for us as humans, unfortunately. There's a lot of crazy madness that's going on in the world for us, that we can't just think that you're going to go to the workplace and just, can I get another chance? No, you're going to get fired. It is what it is. You messed up, and you gotta learn. You gotta learn that you gotta work through these problems. But for a dog, it's like, I got you, man. You don't need to worry so much. We'll work on it again a little bit later. We'll work on it tomorrow, and we'll get there. But for a kid, you gotta progress a little bit, and you gotta learn how to do that on your own without somebody like micromanaging you, because otherwise you're gonna just be dependent upon everyone to be able to do anything. We can't have that. But the dog, yes, please be dependent on me. I got you. I got you forever.
Yeah, be the good leader. And anger and frustration, I tell people, is weakness in that dog's eyes. Yeah. Right. That's not that strong, good leader. When you get frustrated and lose your cool over the littlest things, like they're looking for that compass in their life to follow. And that compass shouldn't be all over the place. Right. The compass should be steady and clear. And the natural rhythm of the world that we live in is chaos and order. And we are going to encounter order. We are going to encounter chaos. And it's also about consequences, right? I'm a big fan of like root words and studying words. Etymology, right, is a study of word, and epistemology is the study of knowledge to study. And when you look at like Congress, convene, congregate, all this stuff, that means come together. So and then sequences. So the sequences coming together to produce an outcome, and the consequences can be good or bad. But there are consequences, and if you act like an idiot, the consequences might be you get fired.
Yeah.
And so it's important to keep that in mind. But the beautiful thing about these animals is that, and even with the horses, even with the goats, is that they are forgiving. And and as a fan of Jesus, as a believer in Jesus, that's one of the most powerful things that we can do as well, is to forgive others. But the hardest thing to do is to forgive ourselves. And especially when we make that statement, I was wrong, to be able to forgive yourself for that, and to work forward, because I truly believe that we have been forgiven, or to make another attempt at this behavior or to work through things with these animals takes an element of that forgiveness. And I'm so grateful for that, even though I am still going to apologize when I get to heaven for the mistakes that I made with some of these dogs. Do you have any books that you do recommend that are kind of like your top 5 or anything, Mark? What do you think?
Yeah, I would have to look, because I've been making some videos. I did a whole thing on like 5 or 6 videos of specific books that I really I kind of just did a little talk on, but I can compile it at some point to put something together. But most of the stuff that I've read that I believe can help people the most with the dogs are not like dog books. They're not the book on like a training manual on how to, or even if they are a dog book, it's a dog book of realizing that we need to start being more aware of what we're doing. The dog is just, it's doing based off what we're doing for the most part. They have their own that they do, but for the most part, they're doing what we're telling them to do. And that's where things get complicated with a lot of people, because that's where frustration and all that kind of gets confusing to me or to most people with their dog, because the dogs, from what I've learned, is our frustration in how our body functions and everything, it looks the same, as super similar as excitement. So when you start to get frustrated, I noticed that most people's dogs get excited. So when you're like, the classic example is the dog's in the backyard, you're trying to tell it to come inside, and they start playing chase with you. You start playing chase and they're all like, oh, come on, come inside. But then you start getting frustrated and you notice that the dog gets more intense. They're like, yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. They just keep ramping it up. So when the dog sees your frustration, it thinks like, we're about to have fun. Let's go for a party, because the dog is misreading what is actually going on. They don't know. That's the part where I'm trying to not say that frustration can't be used in a positive way, but in some sense it can, because I've seen this with my dogs, that they know when, like, if I'm irritated, they're like, okay, we're done. They completely stop. They're like, oh, we're not doing that right now. Because like if they're like hounding all on me, I can get them to get right back to calm in like 5 seconds. That's not right now, guys. And they know, they hear that, they see that, and they're just like, okay, not this second. But most people, when they do that, what does the dog do? Jumps on them even more. It just keeps ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And I think that that's the confusion that the dog is misreading because of what we are doing. We're not explaining to that dog what that means. We assume that they should know, and we can't assume anything when it comes, especially to the dog. But people struggle with this with their children. They tell them not to do something. What's the kid do? Exactly what you just told them not to do. And we're not explaining it in the correct way. And it really has to make you slow down of, if the dog is whatever it's doing, it's we're doing. It's the language that it got from us. So we have to figure out how to switch that language that we're saying. Then not all, but most all of your issues are literally going to disappear, because you have easy, clear communication. When the dog's like, all excited, I want to go chase, you say, not right now. The dog's like, oh, okay, well, not right now. As opposed to most times when people say not right now, the dog just takes off. Or they look back, because I used to have a dog that did this before. They will go a little bit, turn around and look at you, and you're like, here, and he looks at you like, give me 1 second. Goes a little bit more, turns around, looks at you, and then it just takes off anyways. And it's like, the dog is, in your brain, you can say, the dog is being disrespectful to me. It's not listening to me. But it is listening to you, because it did what it is that you just told it to do. And that's like the big moment for me of realizing I told the dog to go chase that. I actually didn't tell it not to. And then I have to put it on me, and not saying my dog is being disobedient or disrespectful or whatever words we want to use with that. No, the dog is just doing what I'm telling it to do. The dog is a dog, and it's taking information based on what's being said and done to it. And if the dog is still jumping on you and you don't want it to jump on you, you're saying to that dog to do it. And you got to figure out what you're saying. Because the biggest thing I always recommend to everybody, especially with the simple dog jumping on you, set a camera up and just interact with your dog and watch it. And then you'll watch that little thing that you're doing that second, just because our phones are fancy today. Everyone's got 60K, 4K, 60 frames. So you got 60 frames a second to be able to go slow by slow. The moment that dog makes that decision that I'm jumping, look at what you're doing. And once you see that, you're going to, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. Stop doing that. Dog won't jump on you again at all, period. It's over with. And it really is that simple, because you're telling it to do it. And the moment that you tell it not to do it, the dog's not going to simply do it. It doesn't come down to having to, like, what is a classic thing, knee the dog or pinch the dog's paws, because that's going to confuse the dog, because you're asking it to jump on you, but then you're telling it no at the same time, as opposed to just saying, no, I just don't want this. The dog's just going to simply stop. And it's always something that we're doing. And it's something that's just going on that we're not aware of for the most part at first. But once you become aware, now I can start to change little things that are going on.
Yeah, no, what works. We have a perfect feedback loop right here. And dogs are very opportunistic, right? And it's not just what's going on, what we are trying to say to the dog, but it's important that they might be interpreting what we're trying to say as something completely different. Sometimes that's 180 degrees different, like opposite of what we're saying to them. And a lot of times too, like, Well, even with enough, like I'll play the dog, I'm done playing, enough, right? Stop that right now. And so, and then the dog might try to play again, be like, enough, even though I know that you're having fun with this, or I'm calling the dog in, and I've called them in so many times, but they're not done with running or something, or they just want to get that last little burst of energy or something out. And that, so that now that cue to come in is now a cue to run, right? It's an interesting dynamic, and it's very important. And I tell people, when, especially when I do Zoom referrals or Zoom meetings like I do all over the country, and it's very helpful if I know the dog and met the dog and work with them hands on, and then I can follow up with Zooms, and that's what I prefer. But sometimes we don't have the luxury of doing that, and so what I do is I'm like, set up a video camera. And just like you said, we have 60 frames per second in 4K, and I can scroll through every frame and be like, look at the dog's eyes, look at the dog's tail, look at the dog's, right? And the dog's now interested in this, and watch how it builds in this dog's. And the dog's like, we sit here perfectly still, Mark, you and I, with our voices, and we're communicating a vast variety of abstract ideas, and just like sitting here still. The dog's like, dude, you guys are boring. You're just a bunch of chattering monkeys. Where they communicate with their body, tone, speed, and distance, right? And so it's important to know that they have like a different way of communicating. And that's why, like what we were saying about having a large pack, bringing a dog in, let them communicate the way that they perfectly understand, because this is cross-species communication, that sometimes we are not going to be able to address behavior in a way without the influence of the species that are the same as them. And so, I mean, there's a lot there, but that's exactly it. And I mean, and sometimes, if I'm frustrated with my dogs, and it's not necessarily about being frustrated, maybe reword it as becoming like unregulated, right? Where you're not, for those freaking thumbs up, not where you can't regulate your frustration to a point that it becomes dysregulated. Like, does that make sense?
Because I know what you're saying.
I absolutely will get frustrated with my dogs and be like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Get over here. And I'm angry to a degree. I mean, I've definitely been angry with my dogs, but in a way that it's like, no, this is justified, and I'm not dysregulated. And as soon as you listen to me, and once the dog gets it, that's the other thing too, especially with my men clients. Like, a lot of times with my female clients, I'm like, come on, you need to be a little bit more meaningful with how you address this animal. And with my male clients, a lot of times I'm like, dude, the dog got it, chill. Right. And so that maybe that's the dysregulation is a weakness that I'll start. That's why I love these, dude. I learn more like how to incorporate more with myself through these conversations with different trainers. And that's why it's important to not just, to learn from everybody, man. And let me go to the comments here, and then I have a couple more questions for you. Yes, I've become slightly obsessed with dog training behavior. I want to hear from everyone on all sides. I want to learn as much as possible for who is willing to share. Excellent. You're perfect person to be here. Makes so much sense. And we say amen, amen. So with new trainers, what do you have any advice for new trainers? We have a lot of new trainers, a lot of people that are maybe just dipping their toe into the industry too. What do you say to them?
Get your dog in a place that you like. Unfortunately, most trainers that I know, they don't have the dog that they have a dog for show. They don't have a dog that they really, really like, that they enjoy. Like, they are able to just do what they really want to be able to do with. Most training kind of comes down to the unfortunate thing of just our life is you got to show something for someone to want to say that you're good. So in dog training, it comes down to obedience. Show that your dog can do this competition obedience routine and get all the points. But that doesn't show that you know how to be able to just something that, like, I mean, you can go on a lot of interviews right now, a lot of so-called like the grade A trainers, that they can't do what we're doing right now. Their dogs are just everywhere, walking, pacing, barking, just it's like a hot mess. But yet they're the best because they have the best obedience. And in my mind, most people aren't looking for that. They're looking for the dog at home that they can be able to just have a easy dialogue with of, hey man, can you get off the couch right now? Hey man, can you get out of the kitchen right now? Simple things that I enjoy about all my dogs is, hey, I'm just making my food. I just want to be in peace right now. Can you just go somewhere? Even my dogs that want to be right next to me all the time, I'm like, hey, you know what? I know you want to be here, but go in the other room and just hang out. That I don't need to like put them in there, shut the door, put them in a crate. I could just say, hey man, go lay on the couch for a little bit, and they leave. And they go. Simple things like that is what I believe most people are looking for based on what I've been asking folks go into their homes and asking what they're looking for their dog. They don't care if the dog can sit good. So, and I think that that's the part that dog training pushes. Your dog better be this grade A obedient trick looking dog as opposed to being a well-balanced that I could just go to the park, sit and hang out with my dog. I don't need my dog on a place bed. I don't need my dog in a down. I don't need all of these things to just be able to have the dog that you enjoy. A lot of trainers I know, they can't have their dogs in the house. They're in crates all the time, or they're locked in a room, or they're locked in kennels, or they're I don't know what else you could do than that, but just lock them in the basement, for instance. They're not really around them. They don't eat their dinner while the dog is somewhere around because the dog is like, my Dalmatian is obsessed over food, but yet I could still eat my food, cook my food, and she could just be around of this. She understands like I guess you could say respect that this is mine. I'm not hounding you because this is what I used to say to her at first. I'm not hounding you. I'm not like studying you while you're eating. So don't do it to me, please. Like I want to eat in peace. You like to eat in peace. Because when you do that to dogs, some dogs will start to growl and show teeth because you're like invading their eating space. But most trainers that I personally even know and have ever like talked to, I try to get down to the realness, not the show that people like to put on, but how's your dog at home? How do you really like your dog? How is your dog with chasing the cat in the house? How is your dog with chasing the neighbor's cat that's always free, that it's always just in the neighborhood? And just little things like that. And they always would say, I'm still struggling with that. I still have problems with that. How's your dog in the backyard when there's a dog on the opposite side of the fence walking by? Is it freaking out, flipping out with people? And most people will say, yeah, I'm still struggling with that. And I would say, figure out how to work through all of that before you would want to put yourself to say, I know anything. Because the thing is, we want to be able to help. In my opinion, just folks, I've spoke to one person that was like, I need my dog to do all this perfect obedience. And I was like, I know how, but I don't specialize in that. I specialize in just being able to, the main thing I want to say to people is say no to the dog that the dog understands. When you can do that, your life is easy. When the dog gets to chasing, no, we're not doing that right now. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're not doing that right now. And being able to easily verbally state that I don't need a regiment, a system in place to make sure that my dog is going to be good. It should just be a universal. How I speak to my dogs at home is how I speak to them out in public. How I speak to them wherever I go, whatever is around, it's all the same. And that's where I think people get messed up because you need a system in place to go in public, for instance. But at home, you do different things. But then at home, your dog is just running, acting a fool. So then you have to try to put that system in place at home. And it's almost impossible to keep up with that because it's just too much work. There's too much. People give up on dogs because it's too much work. I can't give up on my dogs because I literally, in my mind, I don't do anything. We're just living. It's not like, that's why for me, I don't see an issue with getting more and more dogs as long as I can get them all on board with but I'm pretty sure they'll all just integrate in. It's not work. I'm like, let's get up, go to the bathroom. Let's go. Let's get up, get in the van. Let's go to the store. Let's go. I don't have to do anything. You want to go for a walk, put a leash on, put a collar on. Let's go. It's just, it flows. And hey, you're in my space. Can you move away a little bit? Okay, we're done. It's easy. You want to get to that sense, I believe, is what the dog training to the public is missing. The dog training to the public is because even the dog school I went to, it's focused more on, even though it claims to be like a pet training and behavioral modification type school system, it's meant for sports. It's meant for obedience, for tracking, for sniff and search. It's meant for all of that. And I don't know, one person so far, many people that are like, I need my dog to go find cadavers. I need my dog to go search out something for this competition this weekend. They're like, I just want to be able to sit on the couch and get my dog to stop laying on top of me and just smothering me all day. And I'm like, yeah, that you can say use obedience for that. But in most cases, the obedience actually makes that worse. Because this is the thing with my dog, Johnny here. His obedience was perfect. I could say down, but when I say, okay, Johnny, free, The dude was crazy. Like it was just all over the place. I couldn't get him to settle. So it's like most people are focusing on the show aspect of I need my dog to look good, thinking that that's what's going to make me a trainer, as opposed to make your dog look good when no one's looking. That's the thing that I believe is missing. When no one's looking behind closed doors, how is your dog? And be honest. Be honest. How are your dogs when you're just nothing's going on? That's what I try to put my videos out to say in public. Everyone's always said to me, my dogs look great. I get compliments like that all the time that I don't even, it's just, I know everyone knows how to make things look good when they want it to in that short amount of time. But the other 23 hours in the day, what's going on? Is your dog, what's happening? And that's what I would say for everyone to focus on, that behind closed doors scene, because that's where people are actually struggling. People think they're struggling with on a walk because the dog is pulling them. No, they're still they're struggling in the house with that same mindset of that dog. That dog is pulling them in the house as well. It's not just the walk. And then because people get stuck on, I need to walk my dog to, I will state this, dogs need exercise, but walking a dog a half mile around the block is not exercise to most dogs, unless it's like excessively overweight or it's like a 5-pound dog, that might be pretty good for it. But thinking that you have to do that to get your dog to be able to relax in the house, I will say no. But some dogs, like I've got Dalmatian and my Border Collie and even my Shepherd, they do require something, or they do start to, you could just see it where they're like, I gotta make something happen. But I just play different games with them, but I also play games that dog training as a whole kind of, for the most part, states that you shouldn't be doing with the dog. You shouldn't be letting them chase. You shouldn't be letting them chew and bite and tug and all these things. There's a big group that state like that's going to mess your dog up. But in my opinion, no, it actually makes them much. I set the lure course up and let them chase. And these dogs are like the happiest as all heck could be. Like you'll never find a happier dog, but let it chase something and just get that out. And that's what got me to get the dog at home to look good, not the dog that I'm putting the show on for. That's where things are manipulative to me personally, that I got all these awards and I got this stuff. I know how to do obedience, so I know how to get your dog to be nice as well. But yet most of those dogs, they're created working animals. They're not like the companion pet that you just take for a ride in the van to the grocery store. You don't go to the park with, you don't bring those dogs even around family and friends and other dogs and other people. And they're kind of just come out for that purpose. And that's the part that most people, in my opinion, aren't looking for. They're looking for that companion of, I could just hang out with it. I would focus on all that alone, being able to just have that dog at home the way that you are really happy and excited about, and not lying about what's actually going on.
Yeah. And dude, I've gone to so many trials. I've been in this industry for a very long time. I've gone to different schools, and it surprised me, dude. Honestly. I mean, just being honest, how much these dogs are created in these vans, and you walk by the vans and it's like a frenzy, right? like on these dogs. And I get it. Like there's some dogs that are like Ferraris that are like very high strung and athletic, some Malinois mostly that were at these events. But as a pet dog trainer, somebody that I find that my clients just want a cool dog, dude. That's all they want is a cool dog. And what I tell them is like, we need to be able to trust your dog. We need you to be able to trust your dog and to properly and effectively communicate, so you guys can exist in a manner that is pleasing to you without these surges of stress. And just so you know, I have one dog in here, and people freak out, like especially dog trainers that I talk to, that I have 8 dogs out in my other room, free range. Right. And I do have a crate for them. They'd sleep in crates and stuff like that. They're good. I mean, if I travel with my dogs, I crate them. But, it's important to have them exist, because you have to understand that when you look at dog trainers, especially the ones that are really flashy, sometimes their content is really curated, where they've just edited out a lot of the stuff and they've just show what they want you to see. And that the vast majority of your dog's life isn't going to be on that training field. And no, honestly, I'm not a sport dog trainer, right? And so it's just not my cup of tea. I like to have people understand their dogs. I essentially, I tell people I'm like an attorney for the animal. I represent their best interests, right? And so when you hire me to come into this relationship, I'm representing the animal here. And so we can figure out where things went wrong so you can make adjustments. And as a good teacher, we talked about a good leader, but as a good teacher, I need to be able to instill this knowledge within you. So I, as a teacher, become progressively unnecessary in your life. And so as we go down this path, you understand things on a level, and we get to that place where you can truly celebrate the journey that you've gone through to get this animal that you really, really enjoy. And this is why you got the dog in the first place, right? And just like when we need to lower our egos as dog trainers to say I was wrong and to learn and to teach others, I appreciate the client that has lowered their ego to ask for help from a professional, right? And they've reached into their pocket, they're taking some of their hard-earned money and giving it to me to help them because they need that. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate that aspect of like you are kind of like going like not being proud, but actually wanting to fix this. And so and that's one of the reasons why I don't like, I've worked with, I mean, I'm sure, do you know Action Bronson, from the hip hop artist Action Bronson? Oh, he's got the show. He's had me on all these shows that and I've met all these hip hop artists, and I've had celebrity clients, and I don't videotape it. I don't put that out publicly because they're in a space where they need help and they don't want to advertise that to the world. It's like, look, if we get to the other side of this and we want, like, then a lot of times too, they'll be like, hey, go ahead and videotape or whatever. And even then, I mean, sometimes on my Patreon, I have a couple clients there that I travel around, and they've given me permission to video, but it just feels gross to me. To me, it's more important to be a meaningful factor in that relationship between my client who's truly needing help and who has sought me out and has put themselves in a position where they want to learn. And so that's something that I appreciate as well. And I don't take it lightly, dude. Like, it's something like but a lot of times too, when I meet them and meet their dog, I fall in love with their dog. And I'm like, yeah, dude, this is a great dog. It's not being bad. He's being a dog. It's just that this behavior has manifested this way because of empty areas in their life. Let's figure out how we can fulfill these, whether it's playing tug. A lot of it's play, dude. And I'm a big fan of Jay Jack. I'm a big fan of Ivan Balbanov, and people that are like play to start the relationship. To me, it's primarily the trust begins with the relationship. You need to have a relationship, just like I was saying earlier about rapport is power. You need to build rapport with this animal. And just like you were saying, when your colleague comes up to like, dude, this dude is awesome, right? It's like the other dog looks at this dog and be like, huh, I want some of that, and so it's important to know your role, and also to realize that people, a lot of times too, and if you do obedience with pet dog people, they feel like they're being mean. And I get it. Like, they've told me that I don't want my dog I just want my dog to be cool when somebody comes over. I just want my dog to, not be fearful on the leash. I want my dog to not rush the door or not jump all over my guests when they come over. I don't want my dog to not steal shit off my counter, stuff like that. And so, we have to address the problem, but sometimes the problem, we have to take a root approach where we don't just strike at the leaves. We get to the root of the problem. And so as a good teacher, I become progressively unnecessary, and that's my goal.
Because it's that's why I don't record nobody. It's a personal situation going on. Because even now I'm rebranding everything, and because my van is always letter, dog trainer, this and that. And I've had a few people that were like, I'm just going to park around the corner, because I could tell they're a little like, they don't want the neighbors to know you need help with the dog. It's a hard thing for most all to be able to, and especially, I don't know why, but especially men on that side are like more of, I don't need no help, I got it figured out. But sometimes a little 2 words can just change everything going on, but we're too scared or too high on, or I got it all figured out, I know how to do it, that you don't seek that assistance. So it is something that I like to keep between me and that person, and that's it. I don't want no one else to understand. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is not everything has to come down to, because unfortunately, most folks that I've already am talking to, they're like trying to, for instance, get the dog to stop jumping on people when they come in the door. It's not obedience isn't the only way to get the dog to not do that. But it seems like that's what everyone's information straight goes to. They're like, oh, see my dog, because you probably get the same thing. Every new person I ever speak to, I'm like, I just say, hey, how's your dog? And they're like, oh, he knows how to sit. He knows how to down. He knows how to this. And I'm like, well, what is that? That's clearly not what you're looking for. It's not doing it for you. So what's actually going on? And then we can finally open up that conversation of, we're not just going to double down in, because like I said, most people are scared of the obedience, because to get, not always, but to get to a elite level where they're like perfect bomb-proof dogs in obedience, it takes a lot. And you most of that, you're not going to just throw a treat at the dog and the dog is going to do that. You got to upgrade more. You got to start to change some things up. And some dogs are just incapable, I want to say, of being that elite level that can make your dog perceive to be what you're looking for. You're going to start to do things that a lot of people are just uncomfortable with. And I've noticed that a lot with a lot of women. They're uncomfortable with putting that collar on, putting that prong collar, putting that e-collar on the dog and just hitting that dog. They're uncomfortable with doing that, because I remember a lot of work I used to do, put the prong collar on, and I would say, you gotta pull that leash, woman. Like, come on, like, don't just it's like they have a blockage of like, I can't do it. But I'm like, I hear you. And that's why for me, in reality, I had to start changing my approach, because I'm like, I can't get people to do something they don't feel comfortable with. It's just not going to work. So someone else that's comfortable with that, have at it. Do what you got to do. But there's a lot of people that I've met in my life that just, I don't want to do that to my dog. But I still want my dog to be able to listen to me, basically. And I'm like, okay, well, that's my way of, because even me personally, I didn't feel comfortable. My dog Johnny here, he never got 100 on all his tests in school. He always lost some, because I didn't want to go too far. And he was worked with his prong collar. So his sit, we had to do a 3-minute sit, I think is a 3-minute off leash. So they still have the collar on, but an off leash 3-minute out of sight sit. The dude just doesn't sit long. He's big, he's awkward. He would just go to a down. And I would start applying that pressure of, you better sit, you better sit, you better sit. And I just looked at him, hit his eyes, and he's just like, please let me be. Like, just please, like, just stop. It's just too much. And I just said, whatever, dude, I'll lose 3 points. It is what it is. And ever since then, I really changed a lot on, I see that some dogs can say, hey, may need a firmer no than just trying to say it out of your mouth and expect the dog to listen to you. But most I don't believe that do. In some cases, because it's just gone too far. They've just allowed the dog the dog is just running. The dog is just, it's pushing. That in my mind, I still think that we can get there if you want to, without having to worry about doing something that I would say you're uncomfortable with doing. But you're going to have to want it. If you are in this where I need this now, I've seen people get some pretty cool, pretty good. I mean, I've done stuff with dogs that, again, I feel bad about, sorry about, but they still have the dog today and everything is okay. And I reintroduced to them more of my different way of looking at things today. And they're seeing great results, that they didn't just give up on the dog. They still have it. They're still going strong in it. It's the times that they just gave up on it. And I just like lay the law on the dog. And I'm just like, I'm never doing that again. Like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. And that's where I started there has to be a different way. And that's where I started to realize obedience, just for me, isn't the way to get what I'm looking for. And that's the part that I want most people to really understand, because that's what's being pushed in reality. I don't care if it's a balance trainer, a force trainer, a positive trainer, obedience is the way to cure all your answers. And in my mind today, obedience is the way to make sure that you're still needing the medication over and over and over and over and over again. Most people don't get out of it. You just keep having to keep using it. And that's how our world is set up. That's how the doctors are set up. That's how everything is set up. You need it. You need it. You need it. My goal is to show up and you don't need me no more at all. I'm done with you. Because the way that my language always to everyone is, I want to show you how to work with your dog. Don't worry about anyone else's dog. This dog in your face right here. This is all that we need to worry about. Me, I got to worry about all of the dogs. But you, I want to show you enough to just work with yours. So don't think that now I know how to work with mine, I can go work with them all. Just know that you can work with your dog now and you're good to go. That's all that I want people to focus on is just that. And that's where YouTube is iffy, because they're showing so much, so many different dogs, so many different people, so many different ideas, so many different concepts. And if you don't agree with the concept and they're saying this is how you have to do it, you're going to fail. And at the same time, if you're doing something that you're not seeing any change from, you're going to fail. You have to do something that is going to work. That's a big thing with, is a lot of the world, unfortunately, today thinks that men and women are the same. I don't believe that men and women are the same. And that's where something
no,
that
I do not, dude.
No, there's something in the sense that, yeah, for a man to do with the dog is easy, but for a woman to do with the dog is a little more challenging. And the one thing that I do know that's more challenging for women to do with the dogs is when they see the dog that's kind of like got the little sad eyes, little puppy eyes, they kind of want to hold it. They kind of want to just touch it. And in that moment, I would just recommend just don't touch it for a second. We'll wait it out for a moment until that dog gets back to, I want to say, calm and neutral, and then go ahead and touch the dog. But when a dog comes up to with these little puppy eyes, like, please hold me, just leave it alone. But for a guy, most guys, we see that dog, we're like, you'll be all right.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you're good, man.
Yeah, you're fine. Like you'll figure that out.
Well, 85% of my clients are women. It's crazy.
Yeah, me too.
I and looked at the numbers, and it's because we're nurturers by nature. And I tell them, I'm like, look, I love women, and I love my wife. Let me rephrase that. But I'm a man, and so like the nurturing aspect of all the women in my life, from my mom when she was here, God bless her, and with my wife, like I love that, dude. I love to be held. I love to be loved on, and so there's a part of me that absolutely appreciates this about you. But there's also a side about you that I know is more assertive, right? And they're like, oh yeah. And I was like, so when you feel that nurturing side of you, coming up to the surface, when that puppy dog and we need to leave it be, I just need that nurturing side to kind of take a passenger seat, and the one that is a little bit more assertive. And now that you've hired me, just remember Bow Wow Bill told me that I need to have the assertive one drive the wheel at that time. It's not saying that you can never love up on this dog. It's just saying that, look, this has gotten kind of a little imbalanced with how this dog is seeking comfort at the wrong times, reinforcing behavior that we don't necessarily want to at that time. Now, when the dog starts to calm and starts to be cool, like my girl over here, she's just laying here, and all I need to do, man, is I look at her, hey baby, that's all she needs. She's just sitting over here, and when I say hi baby, her little tail does a little wag, so we don't necessarily always need to touch. And that's important to know. And then also, like what you were saying about these sport dog people, like that's a huge commitment, dude. Like, and a huge commitment of time, a huge commitment of resources, a huge commitment of like traveling around, and a lot of energy. And if you have a lot of family, everything that you put towards this new commitment takes away from other things in your life that you love. Okay. Yeah. And then the certain dogs just don't make the cut, and we can only curate what's present in that dog. Right. And we can't make them something they're not. And so I've worked with sport dogs. I've worked with police dogs, and sometimes once they've exhibited, I got a dog scratching on my door. Once they exhibit a certain behavior, we drop them from the program because they just don't make the cut. Like for instance, a service dog that's got a lot of prey drive, and if we've got a blind person and we got a squirrel running in front of them, and that dog is like, screw this, man. That's just the behavior becomes a reward of chasing that squirrel, that could jeopardize the task that we're asking that dog to do, right? So we need to drop them from that program, and it's important to have that understanding. And in some aspects, there's good parts of obedience, but there's also as far as that standards are concerned. But just like your boy, when he was looking at you like, dude, come on, I'm a big dude, I want to lay down, it's just how I am. And it's like, okay, it's a cost benefit. Like, this cost me 3 points, it benefits you more. I'll lose the 3 points. I want to go to the comments here. Dylan's a new trainer. So he says, one here, the biggest thing for me is making the time on the side of a full-time technical job. So he's working full-time still. Oh, wait, full-time technical job to work on the business. I really appreciate you bringing up being present, not rushing to do this and that. And then he says, I want my dogs to be able to live with me. So do all pet people. Yep. I'd love dog sports. And they are pretty cool. Like when you can see these dogs performing and doing what they do.
Yeah. It's impressive.
Just not for me, but my dogs are family first. Amen, Dylan. Same with me. My dogs are family. And that's why it's important. And that's another thing to recognize too, as Mark, when you start getting more and more dogs, like that's a little bit less for the dogs that you had. Like if you like that one-on-one attention that you can give, that was one of the things that weighed on me too, is like, as I got more dogs, it was my older dogs now are getting less attention to me from me. And it's a lot, dude, like feeding 7 dogs, feeding 11 dogs, feeding how many you have. Like there's an aspect of this, like I call it, you got to pay to go to work, so, and it's something that I do, but I've already done it. Like it's a juggling, but I have the land for it. And I utilize these guys to help me with my profession. And so there is, there's a balance that comes out there. So Britt says, the hardest thing by far is not loving on all my dogs all the time. I have to remind myself not to baby them, but I do enforce boundaries. Good, Britt. Yeah, boundaries are key. Structure is key, right? Just like, and I compare it to like a greenhouse. If we have a vine that just grows and grows and grows, pretty soon it becomes like a weak vine. But if we prune and we have a structure where we actually have boundaries in place that are firm, then that plant can flourish. Same thing with the relationship. When we have clear communication and the boundaries are clearly defined, then that relationship can flourish. Do you agree, Mark?
Yeah, because that's the boundaries is the main thing that I think people should focus on over the word like discipline. And that side, in reality, boundaries are the way to be able to have the best dog on the planet. When you said don't jump, just don't let them do it until they got it. If you tell them don't, anything that you don't want them to do to you, they don't do it. And my experience, like give it months, give it like 8-9 months or so of you're not doing this. And then you can like here and there allow them to when you say it's okay to. That's how you open the communication of yes and no. When you could say yes to the dog and to say no to the dog, that's in my mind, you're going to have the dog that you want. When the dog is pacing, a dog is barking at a neighbor's dog, you can say, hey, no, man, come here. The dog will stop because it understands you just said no in that. The dog may say, hey, but I want to, but most cases if a dog is like barking at another dog, they're not really wanting to do that. It's just like the instinct is just like, got to make it happen. They got to go on and just, hey, there's a threat. And you can come and say, hey, there's no threat. It's okay. Like, just go like, let's lay back down again. That makes a nice dog. But when you're saying, for instance, don't jump on me, and then you're still allowing him to do it, and then you're saying no, yes, no, yes, no, the dog's like, well, I don't know what's going on right now. What should I pay attention to? So you have to make, I guess, the rules of what you are cool with and what you are not cool with, what you do not want to see, and just stick to that and stick to that. And then the dog will say, okay, I understand what's going on now. Because that's where the communication is lost. They don't know. They're guessing. So there could be a moment where they're like, well, if I run up on them and sit on their lap and lick them in the face, that's what they want because I see what they're doing. In reality, you're kind of sitting there like, dude, like, please get off me right now. Like, you're smothering me. I don't want this in this moment. And if you don't know how to say that to the dog and stick with that with the dog, that's where you have no communication at all because the dog is just, that's the concept of like codependent narcissist. That's what they love to do is push all your boundaries. You said, I got to work. They're like, oh, do you really need to work? You don't really need to work. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And then finally, you don't know anything about yourself anymore. You're like, I don't know what's going on. And that's what the dogs are doing. They're doing that to us. They're pushing and pushing. And you're just like, yeah, whatever. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then you got no order at all that's happening. That's one thing that I would say, just if you said no and you don't like it, just stick to that, please. And you're going to see amazing things just happen.
Yeah, and it's not always going to feel good to say no. Like I always remember my dad telling me, son, whatever, sometimes doing what's right doesn't always feel good. Right.
Yeah.
And things in life, some of them aren't going to feel good. And addressing those boundaries is one of those things. And I give the analogy of like, think of it, the time that you were a kid and your grandma just made some cookies and you went up to the counter and you were like, can I have one of these cookies? And she says, no, we're having dinner. You're going to spoil your dinner. And then you come up, ask again, and she says, no, you're going to spoil your dinner. Pretty soon you're going to stop asking. But if there is one time that grandma allowed you to have the cookie, you're always going to reflect and be like, well, there was that one time.
Yeah.
And so the duration of that behavior becoming extinct has just grown almost exponentially. And that's why it's important too, what Mark is saying, is sometimes this stuff, because we have allowed the behavior, and now the dog's reflecting back, there was that one time that this was okay. Right. And so to give it that time for this behavior to extinguish with the firm standing of those boundaries being in place, but because we have experience of the behavior being fulfilled, that's why it's important to know, hey, look, this is going to take a while for this to truly be reflexive, that the dog realize, oh, okay, that's not going to work. And that reflexive barking too, like even when the dog's barking at something, to me, it's like important to kind of look at what they're barking at. Okay, dude, there's nothing there. Let's go. Right. Yeah. Instead of just yelling from the other room, knock it off, like go and see, unless it's become like a problematic, which sometimes it is, but to acknowledge and to look, and the dog's watching you look, okay, we're cool, man. Let's go. What are you doing? Right. Type of thing. So, it's a communication loop, but we're also communicating with our dog too. And they're always watching us. And I tell people, if you don't ever think your dog's watching you, go grab your keys right now and put on your jacket and then sit on the couch and then watch what your dog does. It's interesting. 24/7, man. They're taking heed, taking notes, and they're pattern recognize. They recognize patterns. Like if I said, because whenever I stop playing my game, I'm usually playing with my buddies, and then we say GG's peace. Like she's just like, whatever, dude. But usually then my dogs are hopping up and they're just be like, and GG stands for good game for the gamers out there. It's like that they know I'm shutting off my console and then we're going to go out and run. And so as soon as I say that has now become a cue, because and I didn't teach them that, they just experienced it. Right.
Right now is a prime example of how intelligent that they are, because they know that you're doing something different than the game right now. So no matter what you say, they're not going to engage and do that. Because I test that with my dogs as well, with just simple little things. Because mine is, I'm sitting in the house, and if they hear my phone go into like, I shut it off, let's go out. We're going outside. Pretty much every time I shut the phone off, I'm going outside. So they just run that. But they can know, like right now, if I turn my phone on and I hit the button and it makes a noise, he's going to lay there, because they know that situation is different. Something's different going on. They're just fascinating they're just really interesting animals when you really get to the core of just watching them and studying them, as opposed to just trying to put a story on them, but just watch them for who they actually are. Because that's what they do to us. So if we do the same back, you're going to realize some really cool things, fascinating things about these dogs that can really just, I don't know, every day in reality, they still just surprise me. They shock me with little things that they got going on. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate them more. And when you appreciate them, you'll appreciate your relationship with them.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on? We've been talking for almost going on almost 2 hours now, man. Is there anything that you want to mention or that you can think of?
I guess the biggest thing that I would want anyone, especially someone that's like, I want to get into dogs and I want to train dogs. The number one thing that I think or I know how to help you to help your own self to be able to get through what I'm talking about is you can't be scared of these dogs. Because most calls that I always get, I rarely get a call of like, my dog is so great and I just want to learn how to take it somewhere. No, it's usually like, I think my dog is bit, or my dog bit me. My dog gave me stitches. My dog bit and killed another dog in my house. It's usually something crazy that you're showing up to. It's not for the most part, or maybe it's just me and what I look like and people just assume that to call me. But other trainers I know, you're not walking into a house of a dog that is just oh, he's happy, he's fun, he listens to everything that I'm saying. No, it's a dog that's like, their people are most cases scared of their dog in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be scared of these dogs. You have to be able to go in there and be the expert to the dog of saying, I know I'm here to help you, buddy. I'm not here to be in the same state as you. I'm the neutral person here that is going to be the one to help you get to where I am. I'm not scared of you. There's no reason that you should be scared of me. I'm not scared of these dogs. There's no reason you should be scared of these other dogs. That's the one thing that I see that people really fail in. And that's where a lot of the tools and other things and crates and muzzles and everything else has to come in, because they're actually scared of what that dog may do. And as soon as we show that to that dog, then that dog, it just reinforces to that dog. Yep, I should be scared. Yep, I do need to be nervous. As opposed to just the dog sees you and it's like, oh, somebody finally sees me and they're happy with me. They're excited to see me. I rarely see people that are excited to see me, because most dogs that are like, say, reactive, they're barking and barking. When they do that, every human and every dog that they've seen is like, oh my goodness, I'm scared. Like, what's going on? That's all their world encompasses of. It's just they see fearful people, and then they're at home seeing a fearful person all the time. So when you can come in and you can just say, hey, how's it going, buddy? Like, what are we going to do now? The dog will, in my opinion, will at that time be able to accept the help, accept change. They're gonna be willing for it. But if you go in there scared, the dog is going to double down in that scared. And that's where a lot of people are like third, fourth, fifth, sixth trainer in, because you're going to a dog that they're scared of. And the dog just gets worse. And then they come in the house and like, oh, what's going on? And then it gets worse. And then the dog finally doesn't allow people even in the home, because the said professional is scared to even come in. So if the professional is scared to come in, you're not allowing your friends and family for sure to come into that home. And I see that a lot from a lot of people, unfortunately, are forced isolation because of their dogs, because they're scared of what it may do. Even if it's in a crate, they're scared that the dog's going to break out. Even if it's in the backyard, they're scared of something is going to happen. So the biggest thing is to not be scared of these dogs. And the way that I've personally been able to get through that is working and going to these shelters and these rescues and just handling dogs. Handling that dog that someone says, oh, this is a red card bite dog. Look at that dog and say, hey, what's up, buddy? Put a leash on that dog. Because that, especially in those places, those dogs are excited to get out of those kennels and those in their homes or wherever they're in. They're excited to get out. So the chance that they're willing to want to chew on you is going to be very low. So, but obviously, if you're going to be a trainer, you better understand the language of when the dog is wanting to chew on you. But work with those dogs to allow yourself to be able to just like, oh, this is cool. And the more times you see that, and the more that dogs behind you get, the faster and the more you're going to realize what's actually a danger that I'm like, yeah, I do need to hold back compared to, or someone is putting a story on. It's like, no, your dog is fine. I rarely meet a dog that I'm like, yeah, that's scary right there. I see a dog that's just like, they have this fake persona. They're like, yeah, I'm big and bad. I'm tough. Don't get next to me. And then when they bark at me and I look at it like, but then the dogs instantly lay down. They're just like, oh, okay, well, all my tactics aren't working on this person. So what's going on right now? And we can inflict change in that. And that's something that I would suggest everyone. And or if you're training and you get those cases, just stay in your lane and don't go to that person's house. Just don't say you can help them. Just go, keep going on until you can get the experience, I guess I can say, that makes you feel more confident in those situations. Because most calls, you're going to get somebody crying on the other line of that phone, and they're very scared, they're very nervous, and it's very emotional experience. And you can't just be as scared as they are when you're getting into that. It's going to make things worse, that I've just personally have seen.
Yeah, well, and people mislabel, like you said, dude. I see maybe 2% of truly aggressive dogs, the vast majority is fearful. Yeah, and becomes ritualistic in the dogs. Once I hear this, then I do this, and then once I, do this, and this happens, and then, and they're, and sometimes I don't even look at that dog. I'm just like, yeah, dude, I don't hear you. I'm watching this, and then when you start to calm down, then I'm like, oh, there you are, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll get there, buddy. Like, yeah, but just I like that. Don't be afraid. I've had a couple dogs that I've been afraid of, that I was like, okay, dude, I'm not taking this dog.
There's always going to be that. But it's the, like you said, it's a small a small little
Very small.
part of it. It's not the majority. It's a real little bit, and that real little bit, that's where we have to figure out like where are we going here, and then that's the time in reality for most people. I'm going to put even me in some cases that I work with. Maybe I'm not the one for this. I'm not there yet. I see what's going on here, and in reality, everything that I've been trying and even thought of is just not the approach for this. I'm just not for this, and just be honest and state and say that, as opposed to just going into it thinking maybe I'll figure this out. This isn't the business to do things like that with. This is emotions. This is living beings. This is different than just the AC system isn't working. Let me try this out. Let me see if it fixes it. If it doesn't work, you blew a fuse. Cool. Let's just replace the fuse and get back to work. If you blow the fuse on the dog and you do something wrong, you may be making things so bad for that owner that it's going to be so much harder for things to come back from. Because I hear that from a lot of people, unfortunately, that they get their dogs or they get it back and it's worse than where they were. And they still paid and they still see a little bit of like, oh, but that's a little bit better. So it gives them hope that things are on the track, but it's not. That's why the next person has to come in. So if you just don't know, just please be honest and just say, I just don't know. And don't experiment on somebody's already dog, that I guess I can say. That's where like you pulling in 3 or 4 rescues of your own and taking care of them and working on them, you can realize like, yeah, that didn't work. That did work. But your own stuff, your own dogs to keep working on, keep knowing that this is a commitment. You're not giving up until you get to that point that I like these dogs, to get that experience before you're out there like, I saw a video, let me try this. And that's not a thing to do with these animals at all. That's where things can get dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, dangerous not just for you, but for your dogs as well, right?
Yeah.
I don't want any of my dogs being hurt or killed, or and I have a bunch of little dogs too, so it's important to know that, and to remember at the end of the day, you're hired to fix a problem here, man. You're hired to come up with results here, and they're giving you, sometimes, good money, for this. So Jacqueline, that's a question for us. We'll answer this question and then we'll wrap it up, and then I put in your YouTube channel up in the comments earlier. Is that primarily where you're at, or is there any other way?
That's all that's all I got. And then I just threw an email in my description on there. That's all that I'm playing with so far. I canceled my Instagram and I just got to scrolling on that too much. And I was like, I gotta get more focused in life than watching people's cute dog videos and cute farm videos. So I'm kind of not on that right now.
I should follow suit, but I just can't, man. I'm addicted. But I need to. How would someone get experience and information to help these dogs, because there is so many of them? So Jacqueline, are you talking about the dogs, or you? If you could, do you have any questions for her? How would someone get experience, information, and help these dogs, because there's so many of them? Mentorship. Do you ever do shadow students or anything, Mark?
No, I've never gotten into anything like that. Because this past year I've been doing things completely differently. So in reality, I have slowed down a lot with putting myself out, and I'll say forcing myself out to get new clients and stuff like that. It's just doing more work on my own things to see like, is my life getting easier and better, or am I just lying to myself about it and saying like it's good, but I don't want those like what ifs and those buts. So I'm kind of doing a lot of my own personal behind closed door stuff with mine to see like what it is that I'm talking about is actually valid. I'm in no rush to be like some celebrity trainer like a lot of these guys are just in this rush. They're just like trying to get hands on all these dogs and all this stuff to just look away. I want to actually be and have what I know that most folks are looking for. So I'm kind of just in a slow approach of working with these animals. But something that I have really understood about dog business, that I've already had a little experience with the different business. I used to paint houses and I really painted cabinets as a cabinet refinisher, is how to be able to talk to people. That's something that a lot of dog trainers are not good at. They know how to work a dog and play with dogs, but can you convey the information that you're doing working with those dogs to the people? That's the biggest part. It doesn't matter what you do to the dog, but if that person doesn't understand what you're doing and doesn't understand what's happening, you've done nothing at all. The dog can look good when you're there, but as soon as you disappear, they have no idea. That's like more I believe that's the hardest part for pretty much anybody. I don't care if you're because I'm a more introvert type person. I'm not like all out there. And that's even hard for an extroverted person that talks to everybody to be able to do. Convey what you are doing and being able to get that person to understand it, to be that teacher role and knowing how to like say things 8 times to get people to understand what's going on. And that's the part that I believe most people should work more on than even the dog sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm going to get on my dogs. I don't know if you can hear them barking back there. I'll be right back. Yo! Jimmy, Christmas. Some people's dogs.
No, that's the main thing is that's the reality of it. People think that like everything should just be perfect, and this is life, man. Life changes, stuff happens. We don't know what's going on. It is what it is. There's probably every video I make at my house, I have to say to my Pyrenees Shadow, like, hey, we're good. Like, calm down. Like, it's okay. And someone would say, oh, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Every time he has to keep telling something to that dog. And I'm like, this is life, people. I'm not going to edit it and stitch it to make it seem a way. I'm going to show what it just really is, how life really just is. And that's the part that I focus on, not the fake mask perception look. That's easy to do. I could put a minute video together to be like, look how perfect my dogs are. But to actually just go to a trail and walk for 30, 40, 50 minutes, be somewhere and just have the dogs around for 30 minutes, unedited, just seeing what's going on. I don't see many people doing that simple thing. To me, it's simple. That's what we should be able to show. Like, this is what's actually happening. Every video I make, there's something going on that it's like, hey, buddy, like, what's going on over there? Like, let's chill that out. Everyone, but that's the thing that I believe is the beauty, that you can say and do something and something actually happens from it. You're not just speaking in the wind and nothing's going on. Sometimes I got to say it 2 or 3 times. Someone can say, oh, that's you're no good. You don't have the best. But I'm like, what on this planet is just perfect at one time and everything is just solid? That's not real. That's fake. We need to get into the real understanding of these dogs that every single day, every day, something's going to happen that it's like, I'm not sure, like, what's going on right now? I said to stop doing that. Let's stop doing that. And then the next day you tell them, hey, don't do that. And they're like, oh, okay, let's move on. It is what it is. It just is what it is. Well, and that's what I like about dogs.
And it's the dog. I'm listening because I know every single one of my dogs bark, even when they're barking together. I know who's barking, who's not barking. And what's funny is that I said, yo, chill. And there's a cat walking out there. And it's Chloe, that poodle. Remember I was telling you about that I just brought in? That's the only one barking. That's her. Right. And so I realized that now is a learning opportunity for her to experience. I just came out there, told him no, or told him, I just said, yo, chill out. And all the rest of the dogs aren't making a peep, but she just keeps piping off.
Because she's learning. She's trying to get in.
She's learning. Now she's setting the others off. But the cat we have a new cat that's coming up to the porch. We have a brand new cat that has been coming around. But it's crucial, man, to and one thing I want to say before we sign off, and I wanted to get to Jacqueline. So trainers help these people. Dogs don't have the experience. How can they get the experience? Is get your hands on these dogs, man. Go to a shelter, touch 100 dogs, dude. Go walk dogs. Go volunteer. And the other thing that when you talk to your clients, that's what I think that is the problem with some of these systems that people get locked into, man, is that they speak to their clients that goes over their head or whatever. They're not interested. You have to have analogies and ways to talk to clients that they're going to get in a meaningful way, that they're ready to make the changes and follow through with it because now they know why they need to. The why is the power. Hold on. I'm going to get on my dogs one more time. Just be right back. Hey, chill out. Chloe, get in here. So now Chloe's just going to be in here. Here, let me come here, Chloe. Come here. This is Chloe. This is
oh, wow.
the crazy one out there. So now she's in here with me because she's setting everybody else off, and she's like, "This is awesome, best day of my life." Nope, get back. Now she's trying to look up the window. Hey, sit. Thank you. Chill out for a second. We're almost done. Cool, brother.
Yeah,
well,
so I just want to say something else to add that about that talking to people. That's why for me, I like to research all kinds of stuff, diet, exercise, different types of work, different types of things, because when you meet somebody, you scan the room. So most cases for me personally, I just go to people's houses. I could scan the house and see like what other interests you have, your dog, but other interests you got going on. So if I walk into someone's house and I see a piano or I see a basketball, I research enough into those topics so that I can use analogies from that topic that they know way more so that they can understand. That's where real help can really happen, because you could speak to them in their language. If I speak to everybody in dog language, they're nowhere. So I have to come up with concepts that are because one of my first questions is like, what kind of work do you do? What do you do for work? And depending on how they respond to that, I know where to go, because some people be like, oh, this is my work. They don't like it. So, okay, I'm just leave that alone. And then it's like, oh, what do you do other than working with your dog? And they talk about, I love doing this. I love going there. It's like, cool. I study that. In most cases today, there's like little things each person, we all pay attention to. A lot of it is like the sports and music and things like that. It's pretty simple. And especially for guys, learn a lot about diet, nutrition, exercise, because a lot of women are on a lot of diet, exercise, and nutrition. So when you understand a lot about that, you can open that up to speak about like, this is why we're doing this in the sense of with the dog. You have to do it like this. You got to, like say diet, you got to withhold something. You may not like it. It's going to suck for a little while, but in the end, don't you like the results from it? And then they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then we're able to like get somewhere. But if you're just using dog training terms, every single person almost you speak to is just like, you're talking nothing to them. There's nothing at all. Yeah, you got to be. That's a big part of this dog stuff that I think is failing, because we can't speak to the people with the actual information that you're wanting to say, and speak it in a way that they can say it back to you and understand what you just said. Because I have to. What did I just say? Like type. I don't say it like that, but I'm like, what was I asking from you to that I was just speaking? And they always say it back, everything that I'm stating. And I'm like, okay, I'll see you in a week. And then next week they're like, oh, we're good to go. Like things are looking nice. Okay, great. Had a nice life. I'm gone. I don't want to be here no more. like don't call me. You'll figure it out. I'm telling you, you're good now. You got this. Like have more faith in yourself. You're good. But it's being relatable to the person you're speaking to and letting them know. Because me personally, I've gone through and dealt with the same stuff. You got a dog that's wanting to eat people and bark at everything. It's like, I've lived in that. Be relatable. A lot of people are like, no, my dog is perfect. My dog is never this. My dog never barks at anything. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like I understood like, oh, your dog's barking right now. Like your dog's barking right now. I totally understand. Like I got the same stuff that just happens. It's we're in this together. We're not in this that I'm the master or like I say, the expert that's got everything solved. No, we're in this together. We got to do it together.
Same with the people that are watching. That's why I love, because and that's what I say, like a dog training podcast, you better be okay with some barking dogs in the background, and
it's going to happen.
Yeah. And also to chunk it down too. That's the other thing. Like when you're working with your clients, like don't overwhelm them with shit they need to do. Like, let's just focus on this thing right here. Right. Because then we'll get to the next step, and I could talk all day about this stuff. It's what I do for a living. But for now, we're going to stop right here. This is what the action items that I want you to focus on for the first step. And then when we get together, how it depends on how you do and where we're at, then we'll move on to that next step. But, a lot of people try to dazzle or you're paying me money, so let me tell you all this stuff. And I've been guilty of that too, like just overwhelming them with knowledge because I'm that guy. But it's important to understand that they need to help. We need to position it in a way, just like that personal trainer or whatever. We're just going to work on these key areas today. We're not going to work that whole body. We're not going to blow you out, hurt you, or make it so it's too overwhelming that you're not ready to take this first step. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, Lao Tzu from the Tao Te Ching. And it's important to understand that as well. Don't overwhelm and don't speak over. Find analogies, find connection, and see, because it just like the communication that we're expecting to achieve with our dogs, we have to be effective communicators with our human counterparts as well.
Yeah. Because a lot of it, unfortunately, comes down to, you want to use all this, you want to say it all because you're trying to make the sale. But in most cases, to make the sale, the less you say, the more you're going to get that sale. Because the less that you say is the less you're trying to prove yourself to saying, just try this. Because I'm that exact same way. We're working on this. They're like, well, what about this? Don't worry about that. This is it. When you master this, I'm telling you, you're going to know how to do that. So you're not even going to need to ask me. You're going to already know. Just work on this. But what if this happens? Work on this. And it's a beautiful thing because we do that as humans. We're like trying to sell. So it's like, well, I know this. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. I could do this. We could do this. We can get them to here. We can get them to here. You're just going through all that as opposed to just saying, you see how we're looking right now? This is what you want, right? Just work on this. And they do that. And then it just, I don't know how and why, but I used to have like my appointments would be like 3-4 hours long. And I'm like, I'm just talking and doing and going. And I realized how to get that down to like literally 2 to 3, 4 minutes. This is what we need to work on right here. Just do this, please. And watch how you're going to see things just get better day by day by day. Just watch, just stick with this. And it's a beautiful experience like that, as opposed to all the extra, because it's part of that cells in us that we just, I believe naturally, I don't think you even need like schooling or anything to know how to sell. We know how to sell, and we like to oversell to make the sell, as opposed to just giving them what they need, giving them what they want. When you oversell, that's when people get suspicious of like, well, what is he really trying to do here? Like, what are we really getting at? And some people oversell and they can't deliver what they oversold. And that's where you're going to run into a real dilemma of, I get your dog off leash running and doing this, and you see the dog and it's just like in the end, after 6 weeks or whatever, they see the dog, they're like, it's better, but you told me I could be able to this, and this, and this. And then that's where the weirdness comes in, because it's like, well, now we got to do this extra program over here or this extra thing over here. And it's like, now things are getting kind of iffy. Now I don't really trust you the way I trusted you at first when he was telling me all this amazing things. And because I tell people like, your dog be off leash, but how about we get it good on leash? If it's good on leash, it's going to be pretty good off leash, but don't worry about it being off. Just keep it on the leash. Make your life simple and easy right now. Keep it on the leash. Just hang out with the dog. Why worry about all that when you don't have the simple thing right now that is just keeping it on the leash and being with you? So it's like, it's the simple things. It's not always easy, unfortunately, but it's the simple things that really just, it works. I don't know why it works, but you gotta deny something in reality, most cases all the time. You have to go through a little, I want to, and that I don't, like that part of your body is stating I want it, but you got to just say, no. We just hold out a little bit. You got to change something in you like that to get what you're looking for. Anything on life, dog, work, everything, relationships with anybody, you have to say no to yourself that you really want to be able to get that change. And that's just everyone. So if you're thinking, I can keep doing everything I'm doing right now and get what I'm looking for, you're just not. You do everything you do now, you're going to keep having what you have. You got to change some people, a lot of things. But most people, it's just like one or two things you change, and you're going to see things much, much better in life.
Yep. And look for the results,
Yeah.
That's the answer, Well, Mark, this has been fun, man. This has
I
been
appreciate
great.
it.
Yeah, dude. We'll stay in touch, because I definitely want to do maybe another one of these with my Patreon crew. But we'll hone down to maybe, I don't know, like a case study or something like that, how you would handle something, or we'll figure it out, man. But
yeah, that's fine.
And then best way to get a hold of you, so is I posted up your YouTube channel, and then your email is in the YouTube channel. Here, let me Mark Dubose, 1986. How did I know,
Yeah.
dude? It's because July 4th, 1986 was
Easy.
too long.
Yeah.
You like
Too
being
many
born on the
numbers.
4th of July. Everybody celebrates your birthday, man, here in
Yeah,
America.
it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Awesome,
It's
brother.
cool.
Well, let's say goodbye to the studio audience, and then you and I will say goodbye in the studio, okay? So thank you, everybody,
All
for
right.
watching.
All right. I appreciate everyone that stopped in, and just keep going. Keep working. Keep learning. Keep growing. That's all that I can say to everybody.
No finish line, man.
Nope.